Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of season 4 of The Sausage Factory. As you know, The Sausage Factory is just a bunch of guys sitting around talking about movies. I'm your moderator, Pizzal, and with me tonight I've got Orc. What's going on, Orc?
What's up, players? Drinking my gin and juice, watching those calories. Gonna be Turkey Day soon.
0 calories for a guy who's as thin as a twig.
Ooh, I'm not, dude. I'm fat as fuck. Look at me.
All right, we'll pretend like that didn't happen. Raho, what's going on? How are you, buddy?
Sitting here having a beer. Looking forward to the show tonight as usual.
Cool. What kind of beer are we drinking?
Rickard's Blonde.
Nice.
All right.
Sweet. Also with me tonight is Rambo Raph. What's going on, Rambo?
Doing well. Got another cream soda A&W just to make Cole more mad.
Nice. You got mad about that because we don't get it?
Yeah.
A&W cream
Cole
soda.
That shit is amazing.
Cole was surprised.
It
I
is.
thought this was extinct.
Yeah, you can't get that up here. Of course, we can't get any of the good sodas up here anymore. So.
America.
You get that free health care, but
We get
no
free health care
no.
and less diabetes. But
Less diabetes. You got less diabetes up there.
yeah. Way less diabetes.
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 It's worth it, though.
Also with me tonight is the voice of the Sausage Factory, the Professor B-Movie Mike. What's going on, Mike?
Hey, what's up, fellas? It is now October 1st, and it's time to rock on.
Absolutely. What are you drinking tonight, Mike? Is that cherry Coke?
That's some cherry Coke right there. And as far as Americans having more diabetes, I look at it this way. The more diseases you end up with at the end of life, that's just how much you enjoyed life while you were here.
Fuck yeah, America.
Because, everybody dies. The most healthiest person in the world fucking drops dead at some point. Now, if you want to live a boring lifestyle and be safe, that's fine. That's great. That's your choice. But some of us like to enjoy it. That's all.
Yeah, you could have like a toilet fall on your head from a plane just out of the blue. And just let him melt it in. He'll save your life.
Just like my uncle had a toilet fall on his head, yeah.
What a way to go. And what a segue into joining us for the first of what I'm sure will be many appearances on The Sausage Factory. As many of you probably know him from his YouTube channel, OCP Communications. How's it going, man?
I'm doing great. I'm really glad to be on this show. I've been a big fan for a while now. I've always been wanting to find something like this to communicate with fellow fans and stuff like this. If I could fucking talk. And this is going to be a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to it. As for what I'm drinking, it's just water. It's in a Gatorade thing, but I want to drink Mellow Yellow, but I don't have any. So.
Oh.
Yeah,
Well, you and I will be drinking water tonight. Everybody else is drinking the good sugary stuff. You and I will drink water. But yeah, thanks for joining us. It's cool to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
You're very, very welcome. And we're kicking off October in a big, big way here with the Sausage Factory. We take October very, very seriously, and we have got 5 straight weeks of nothing but horror lined up for you guys. And we're kicking it off with what I'm sure is going to be a mega-sode. This is probably going to be at least 7 hours, 8 hours, I would think, this episode. So get your beverages, take a bathroom break. Just put a bucket next to your chair so you can pee into it. Exactly. Just get ready for a lot of show tonight. We're talking about the film adaptations of acclaimed novelist Stephen King. So it's going to be a lot of fun tonight. A lot to talk about. If you guys want to join along with us, basically what I'm going to do is I've got Stephen King's IMDb profile pulled up here, and we're just going to go down the line, or in this case, up the line we're going to spend a pretty decent amount of time talking about the big Stephen King adaptations. We're going to take a little bit of time talking about, sort of the middle ground Stephen King adaptations, and we're just going to touch on some of the smaller, lesser-known, maybe lesser quality Stephen King TV movies, but we're going to touch on all of them at least. If you guys want to join along with us, tell us what your favorite Stephen King adaptations are. Either do so in the comments section below, live tweet with us at TSF Nation during the show, or join us in our very own live chat over on the website, thesausagefactoryshow.com. We're waiting on maybe one or two more people to join us, and before we do that, I wanted to ask you guys a question. I wanted to ask you guys a question who are watching this as well, and it pertains to horror. I believe it was Dread Central posted an article on their website, and Scream Factory shared it on Facebook, and they asked, is Eli Roth going to fill the horror void that Wes Craven has left behind us? Is Eli Roth going to fill the void that Stephen King that Wes Craven left us?
That's reaching a straw that's fucking bristly shit.
This was Dread Central, so I guess it makes sense.
Another person.
Aren't they the same website that released that shitty list of movies that should be remade? Like where they said, like, The Hidden should be remade because it's got old technology in it and it needs to be updated, or all these other stupid shit.
Yeah, if
that was a website.
I mean, if Eli Roth is able to take over for Wes Craven, I mean, what's the criteria here? He's alive and he makes movies? Is that what they're going with? Oh, he makes horror films and he's still breathing. He's the next Wes Craven. Well, fuck, I could do that.
I'm sure it's...
You're a better director.
I'm sure the article...
I would say Alexandra Aja would be a better choice. Of just saying that Eli Roth.
I'm not a big fan of M. Night Shyamalan, but, Eli Roth, I don't know. It's even there. I don't know.
What has he even been doing lately other than that crappy TV show?
The Green Inferno.
There you go. I have no idea what that's about.
It's his love letter to the Cannibal Holocaust.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Because
that's basically Eli Roth's Cannibal Holocaust. And I think the whole article pretty much was more or less just a promotional tool for the Green Inferno. But when I read it, I was like, I don't know whether to laugh or cry. This guy's gonna fill in the void in horror that Wes Craven is.
Knock.
I mean, let's be honest. What all has he done? Cabin Fever, Hostel put the fucking Green Inferno that even Ryo didn't even know what the hell it was, and he had such an enthusiasm to look forward to it.
Oh yeah.
Just sit on the toilet and watch it. And then Knock, some Keanu Reeves movie, where the hell it is. And
the best thing Eli Roth ever did was play the Bear Jew.
Who's there?
Which one?
Yeah.
Eli Roth played the Bear Jew.
Inglourious Bastards.
Inglourious Bastards. That's like the best thing he's ever done.
Yeah. That actually was pretty
awesome.
awesome.
And I mean, in Eli Roth's defense, I liked Cabin Fever. I liked Hostel. But just it's kind of the same thing with all the new generation of horror directors who are going to take the mantle from, our masters. And I mean, honestly, it's a pretty sorry lot, to be honest with you. But, the Eli Roths of the world and the Adam Greens of the world and, those people.
I'm surprised they didn't mention James Wan.
Yeah, James Wan. That is a good one. I like The Conjuring. I really like that film. So.
But Eli Roth is like, you go to that just because he has a new movie.
Well, I think Pizzelle is trying to get to this too. It's almost like they've decided to force these guys down. Like, these will be your masters of horror. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
That's the vibe I get from this. Like, he had a couple of movies that were okay. I wasn't a fan of Hostel. I remember liking Cabin Fever, I think, the first time I watched it. But I've never been a big fan of the guy. But for some reason, sites like Dread Central, I won't name any others, I guess, but they're like, oh my God, Eli Roth has a new movie coming out. It's gonna be so scary, and like they're just thinking, like they just force them down our throats. And I'm just sitting back here like, this guy he's just not doing it for me personally. But
yeah, and I mean, those magazines are in love with Eli Roth. Scream Factory, for some reason, is in love with Eli Roth. I don't know what's going on with Scream Factory and Eli Roth, but they're constantly posting pictures of Eli Roth and talking about Eli Roth on their social media.
They're in love with Eli Roth, I guess.
He's presenting a movie they're releasing, right? Isn't
Exactly.
Eli
And
Roth
what
presents Gravy or whatever the hell movie was.
Oh, yeah, I keep seeing stuff about that Gravy movie, and I'm just like, what is going on here?
But if these guys are supposed to be the next masters of horror, they really need to step their game up. Because
If I want to watch Masters,
what have they done?
I'll just watch the Showtime show.
Masters of Horror, yeah. But I mean, the thing with Eli Roth, I'm not even a guy that I don't hate him. Hostile I could deal with, but then Part 2 was such a piece of shit. I'm like, fuck the first one.
What about Part 3?
I forgot about Part 3. I don't think
Yeah, I did too. I forgot that existed.
I always have a problem when they try to replace somebody with somebody else.
Right.
There's only one AC/DC. There's a lot of bands that can sound like AC/DC, but there's only one AC/DC. So trying to say, oh, AC/DC retired, so they're going to replace them, doesn't really work like that.
Yeah.
And, so trying to say, who's going to replace Wes Craven? You can't. He's Wes Craven.
You don't need to.
No matter how good somebody else does, they'll never be him.
It ain't
Same thing
Eli
with
Roth.
Romero or John Carpenter.
It's like trying to replace John Carpenter, exactly. Yeah.
Can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a money thing
and
that they get paid for, or are they sincere about this?
Honestly, I think it's just a big promotion for the Green Inferno. Because I think those magazines, I think it may have been that magazine as well that really just went over the top in its promotion, or not that magazine, the website, I mean, that just went over the top in its promotion of Hatchet. And
oh man, they tricked me so bad. I'm still mad about Hatchet.
I can understand that.
I was all over that movie. I was obsessing over it. I had to see that movie. And it didn't come out in Canada right away. So, like, I steered away from, like, Dead Pit and stuff for, like, weeks. I was like, I don't want to know anything. And I wished I had just listened to the show one time. I could have saved myself so much trouble.
I haven't even seen any of those movies yet. I have so many other horror films.
They're not worth
before
it.
I get to the Hatchet movies. And Victor Crowley.
We talked about this, I think, maybe on the Wes Craven show. But, those guys, I don't want to see Eli Roth's Cannibal Holocaust. If I want to watch Cannibal Holocaust, I'll go watch it. I want Eli Roth to make original stuff. It's like what's his name that did Hatchet? I hated those Hatchet movies. But once he started making original stuff, I've kind of liked his original stuff. But it's Hatchet that everybody talks about. And Hatchet's trash. Hatchet 2 is horrible.
The thing about
Hatchet 3 is even worse.
Is that he overdid the comedy. Like, it just completely detracts from the other stuff. I mean, the stuff with Kane Hodder in it is great. The gore effects are amazing. Like, there's some scenes in that are just awesome. Like, he just wrecked it with that stuff. But you're right, it's they keep trying to remake another movie in their own way. Like, I mean, Cabin Fever and Hostel, I may not have been that into Hostel myself, but they did well. Because there was something kind of different or whatever. There was his own thing. Like, Eli Roth just needs to go do his own thing. And
I like the Hatchet films. I mean, they're cheese-tastic, but they're not good. I mean, but they're a fun watch, but they're not like Friday the 13th or Dawn of the Dead or something that's actually good.
Yeah, what you said about Adam Green and Dick is, I liked Frozen. I liked Digging Up the Marrow. But the Hatchet movies is like, you could watch a gore, you just watch 5 minutes of gore on YouTube, and that's the movie.
Yeah.
But the comedy.
Yeah.
I don't like the fact how the Hatchet films also have all of these horror icons in there, and then they just die. Just, oh, hey, here's this horror icon that you like. We're going to kill them off.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Enjoy.
Oh, was that Tony Collette? Oh, he just got his head chopped off. Oh, was that Ari Mihailoff? Oh, he just got gutted.
Zach Galligan in Part 3.
Yeah,
the guy Gremlins.
exactly.
I haven't seen him for 10 years. Oh, he's dead.
Exactly. Yeah. You can't even think of his name, and then who cares? He's had his head chopped off. Doesn't
I
matter.
remember that guy. Who is he?
Yeah. Yeah.
Waxwork, I think. Waxwork or something.
Oh,
He had the little puppet. It was cute.
But yeah, I wanted to ask you guys that. I read that and I was just like, oh God, what are we? Because I mean,
That's the first time I heard of that. That's
Yeah.
pathetic.
One thing
There are
that these
other
modern
guys.
seem to enjoy that the older guys didn't. The older guys had to earn it. It's like, the critics and the newspapers and the magazines didn't trumpet these guys as great directors. I mean, they had to take a lot of shit from the mainstream press and the critics for making horror films, and it was the fans that made them.
Well, definitely
what they are.
Carpenter.
And there are guys out there that are
Carpenter
doing
of violence
Yeah.
by critics.
There's guys like James Wan. That guy is gold.
But he doesn't want to do horror anymore.
No, he doesn't. But Jason Eisner, I don't know if you guys Hobo with a Shotgun.
Oh, yeah.
He made that movie on like a shoestring budget, just did everything he could to make that movie happen, and that's what made movies like Friday the 13th, and you know what I mean, like that's what made those movies so good, because they had to do the best they could do on nothing. And this guy makes Hobo with a Shotgun. That movie floored me, and he made that on like nothing. So it's those guys, not the guys that are getting, here's $20 million, go make some garbage.
Right.
I think a lot of independent
should be-
horror films are some of the best nowadays. Anyway, so like The Babadook and films like Housebound and so forth and so on.
Yeah. Like I was going to say, they should be talking about the woman that directed Babadook. They should be talking about the guy that directed It Follows. They should be talking about the guy
Come on, don't forget.
the guy who did.
It Follows, yeah.
Or we're trying to have a serious conversation here. The guy that did Absentia. You know what I mean? Talk about those guys. Give those guys some money to make movies. You know what I mean? Don't.
Well,
they
they
got
said,
it.
the guy who directed Unfriended. Hey, yeah, that's a good one.
Well, the guy that did that, the guy who did that Trick or Treat movies, come out with the Krampus.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or you have all those directors that they're getting a chance to do a film called Tales of Halloween, where it's an anthology film where they're going to have like all these different directors going to be directing these segments. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I am too. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to float that to you guys and see what the reaction was. And the reaction was pretty much what I thought it would be. So, yeah. I see Cole's joined us tonight. What's going on, Cole?
Oh, not much. Had a little hiccup there. Thought maybe I wouldn't get on, but it's all right, I think.
Yeah.
But you've arrived.
Things were
You've
good.
arrived so we can get started. Fashionably late, as always.
Very fashionable.
But now
There's
that you're here,
there's two of him on my screen right now. I don't know what's going on.
yeah,
Yeah, I
know,
see that
know.
too. I'm like he cloned himself on the screen.
Yeah.
It's freaking me out. It's super cool.
Yeah, I did
People
come in
are-
a second ago, and it went funny, so I closed it. I came back in again, so maybe that will resolve itself. I don't know.
People are tuning in right now going, 2 Coles, no!
4 times the nipples.
4 nipples.
Don't they want to see me argue with myself?
Twice the hate.
I could pull
Twice
it
the
off.
hatred.
I could pull that off, I swear.
Oh shit, son, hot pockets.
Woo!
Get it
This
in
is
you.
actually this pizza made on this is an English muffin with melted cheese and sauce and pepperoni.
I'm sorry.
Tag
Good,
you.
good little treat for an English muffin.
Yeah, hell yeah. Only way to fly.
Swiggity, sweet.
Here's the pizza.
Swiggity, sweet.
Oh yeah, Cole, I have more of the cream soda.
I know. I went after A&W, and they were just like, well, A&W Canada is actually completely separate from A&W US. And I'm like, no shit. That's why you have this completely separate, that's why you have the completely separate policy. That doesn't really make me feel any better. And then they never answered me.
I never knew this. This is so strange that the differences
I don't-
between American A&W and Canada.
Everything, Mike. I'm telling you, everything. It's
You don't
the
have that
weirdest-
weird fat guy that goes around saying, look, this was raised without hormones. He's on our TV every day. shoving burgers in people's faces going, can you believe that our beef is raised without hormones?
That's our guy. That's the A&W guy. It's this little like, dude with gray hair, and he's like, look at our
Short
delicious
little rotund man that just goes
green
around.
in Alberta.
I mean, that's what you get when you tune into the Sausage Factory. You get educated. It's like a
For those who
social
don't know
studies
what we're
class.
talking about, I was upset to find out that the U.S. still serves cream soda, whereas the Canadian A&W discontinued it like 15 years ago, and I'm still bummed out by it.
So,
Well, I did try your guys' most a popular flavor of Ruffles recently, and I liked it. It was like all dressed, I think.
Oh, all dressed is great.
You guys don't get all dressed. I used to be obsessed with that years
We
ago.
got them now. Like they were just at the convenience store, and I was like, it said Canada's favorite #1 Ruffles chip, and I like Ruffles.
I don't know, in the 90s.
I'll try it.
I don't know if anybody still, I mean, it was a big deal back then. I used to eat them all the
Big
time.
in the 90s for sure. It's still around, of course, but
Yeah. I always just go with barbecue nowadays, but I guess it's good to know it's still out there.
it is.
Well, let's go ahead and let's dive into the topic here. Let's talk about some Stephen King adaptations, and why don't we just go ahead and dive right into really the very first one, all the way back in 1976. Carrie, who wants to get us started off talking about Carrie? Any hands going up?
Carrie, she ain't that hairy.
Plug it up.
Plug it up.
You know what? I could tell a story about that.
ahead.
I know what it is.
You know what it is. The first time I watched Carrie, I rented it. I rented like a stack of movies, and I had to get through them by the end of the weekend because like you had to return them all, kind of thing, right? So anyway, my mom made this like awesome turkey dinner. She made this great big turkey dinner, and I was like, thanks, but I'm gonna go in my room and watch Carrie while I have my turkey dinner. So I'm sitting down and I'm eating it, I'm enjoying it or whatever, and it gets to the scene in the shower. And like I had all this cranberry sauce and stuff on the plate, and I just looked at it, I was like, I just can't eat this. I cannot eat this anymore. I don't know why, it just completely turned my stomach. It just completely
Lost
ruined
the
whole thing.
appetite completely.
Yeah. So that was the first time I watched Carrie.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
How many times
I
has
can
it
think
already
about
been
things
remade?
like,
5 times?
3 times plus a sequel, I think.
Oh,
Yeah. I remember how the story came to be. Like it was thrown in the trash, and it was Stephen King's wife who like grabbed it out of the trash and was like, "Hey, this is actually really good." And then Stephen King's like, "Oh, really?" And it's like, "All right, I'll finish this." And then
Yeah, he said like
became
he
a
said like I
bestseller.
wasn't. He said it's about girls, and I don't know anything really about high
Exactly.
school girls. And she just said, "Well, I'll help you with that."
yeah.
He got 26, I think $2,600 or $2,500 for the film rights. That's all he got, but it
Yeah.
still worked out for him because getting a movie put him on the map probably and helped his book sell. So it doesn't really matter that he didn't get residuals for it, I
He was
guess.
too good at that time. So
Where do
it was,
you- Yeah.
kind
I
of
was going to
safe.
say, where do you put in the Brian De Palma filmography? Like, up one of the best, or top
I would-
5?
I
It's
would
near
put
the
it-
top for me. Near the top for me.
Yeah, I would put it up there. I would definitely put it up there. I mean, I think it's technically. I mean, it's very, very strong. Just technical filmmaking. I mean, the Prom Massacre is amazing, and you didn't see anything like that in horror before. At least how it was shot, with the split screens and the multiple split screens, and that was totally, I think, totally new for horror films at that point.
I think they got lucky. I mean, they had Brian De Palma directing it, and you talk about the cast: Sissy Spacek, Piper Laurie, Amy Irving, William Catt, Nancy
William
Allen,
Catt.
Jeffrey Coulter. I mean, you look back at it now, and it's a who's who of Hollywood back then. But they were most of them were unknown to just TV actors at the time. But they really got lucky as far as who directed it, who starred in it. That really added a lot to the story and made it feel even more real.
Which is the right way to cast young characters like kids. Really, I mean, if you're going with established names, then you're almost usually making, teenagers be played by people like in their later 20s and even early 30s. I mean, if you really want to be actually true to a book or come across as believable teenagers, I mean, I know they probably weren't teenagers today, but they were still. I think it's better that they actually went with mostly people that were unknown then, because that's what you needed in the age group.
What I mean is, if you look back at it, they got kind of lucky because a lot of horror films made movies with an unknown cast that didn't turn out to be these people. I mean,
Yeah.
Sissy Spacek, and
That's true,
they got
too.
really lucky.
That's true, too.
Not a doubt.
Well, now was this? I think Carrie was also the movie that really kind of put De Palma on the map too. Had he had any big hits prior to Carrie?
I'm going to say no, if I remember correctly. He only
Yeah,
did like
I
two
think it
movies
was-
before that, didn't he? Wasn't it like his only his third movie or something? Or...
Yeah, I think he'd done Sisters, and I don't know what the other one. Maybe just Sisters. I don't know. But
I mean,
that was
he's done.
Wait, did he do
This
He
is
did Fan of the
documentary
Paradise.
yeah?
Oh, I like Fan of the Paradise. That's one of my favorites.
Apparently, he did
Oh,
like
yeah.
7 or 8 before that, but I wonder if many of them are that well known or anything.
Let's see, he did 2 films, Greetings in 1968 and Hi Mom in 1970 that starred Robert De Niro.
He did Obsession. I think that was pretty big with Cliff
He
Robertson.
did The Wedding Party, which was an independent film. So
that's,
yeah,
you know,
I think
Carey
these are all
was really
fairly
the one
small.
that put him on the map.
yeah,
I would say,
he did a
yeah.
few more films than I thought, but
Get to Know Your Rabbit starring Orson Welles.
yep.
Wow.
Dionysus.
So, yeah, it's safe to say that Carey was probably his first big one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt.
Well,
Then
let
he
me.
followed it up with some killer ones, so I mean, he really ran with it after that.
Well, and Carey was he went to school with a Carey. He went to school with a girl who, you know, apparently they lived right across the street from school, and she was very religious, and the family was very religious, and she dressed differently, and everybody made fun of her and picked on her.
That's
And
weird coincidence.
yeah. Well, I mean, I had a Carey at my school too. That after I found out that was the origin of the novel, I mean, it was pretty chilling because she was Carey to the T. She lived right across the street from the high school, very religious, dressed in like, you know, drab, very, you know, clothes, very muted, colored clothes. Everybody picked on her, gave her a hard time. And actually the girl that inspired Carey, I believe she killed herself. She died one way or the other. I think Stephen King actually said that she ended up killing herself.
Every town has a Carey.
Every town has a Carey.
Well, that's just because, as humans,
Every
what
town.
we don't understand or what we don't agree with, we tend to want to destroy. So we see
That's
these
true.
people that are weak and they don't fight back, and they're easy targets, so hey, let's fuck with them. That happens everywhere in every town. That's just the way life is.
Mhm.
No doubt.
Yeah.
You gotta learn to smack a fucker in the mouth every once in a while, that's all.
It's true.
Don't take that shit.
This is true.
I want a t-shirt.
This is true.
Gotta learn to smack a fucker.
That'd be awesome.
Sometimes
I
you
want
have
that
That'd be awesome.
There you go. That's the remake of Carey, what you see. Just don't give a fuck, get out of my way. Just smack people.
sometimes you have to bash a
Exactly.
few skulls in the shower.
And then have the theme song would be "Smack My Bitch Up."
It just got
Well,
real.
Carey's also very famous for its ending, and a lot of movies have tried
Yeah.
to recapture that.
Birth
That
of the
ending.
shock ending.
Kind of to a detriment, because how many shocked endings are great? Other than you mentioned Carrie or Friday the 13th, maybe.
Yeah.
But how many can you
Halloween
list?
4.
That's not Carey's fault, though. Carey's was great.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
But
like
it
it.
sucks that, yeah, it's become a thing.
it just became such a cliche that it got annoying as fuck.
Yeah. Definitely with the found footage films. Like every found footage film ends with a shock ending.
Yeah.
Well, that's because they have no
Again,
way to end it.
anytime
They're like,
something-
well, how does the camera stop?
Anytime something
Crazy
crazy or
happens.
successful, everybody's going to want to rip it off because they're going to want that money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Exactly.
It's like Motley Crue put out Home Sweet Home and wore pink spandex, and the next fucking year, everybody was wearing spandex and singing ballad. That's what the fucking thing was, man. And the
Damn
rock
it,
gets
Motley
big.
Crue!
Here's
It's
Pearl
your
Jam.
fault
It's like,
for the
oh.
Damn,
hair
Motley
ballad.
Crue. Your damn hair. Man.
Fucking more than words. It's your
Very, very
fault.
true.
Like Dee Snider said, hey, heavy metal bands don't use acoustic guitars. What the fuck are you doing? You're on Unplugged. You're a metal band. What the fuck? This ain't a coffee shop. What the hell? It pissed me off too. But hey, it's chasing
Mike,
that down.
Mike, were you privileged enough to see Carrie in the theater?
No, that actually was before my time. I did see it on VHS.
Okay.
That's the first time I saw it was on VHS too. I think I got it from a thrift store somewhere and then popped it in. And then I rented it from the library on DVD. I like the film. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite Stephen King films. But I do like Brian De Palma's direction. I think Sissy Spacek does a great job acting. I also like Piper Laurie. You know, keeps talking about those dirty pillows.
Yes, yes.
She was great in that. She was awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Has
I always
anybody
rooted
actually-
for Carrie. I understood from seeing
Oh,
people
yeah.
get picked on. You know, there's always that one bully that always takes it too far. Nobody else wants to go that far. You know, they're always like, no, man, you know, that's enough. We've done it. No, we're going to do this. They got to take it too far. So it's kind of cool seeing them get what they had coming.
Yeah, it's kind of like
yeah.
Unfriended in that way, because that's what you. Of course, Unfriended doesn't show you right away that these people are terrible. It builds that up, and then it becomes a revenge sort of film.
The only problem with Unfriended is that none of the characters were actually likable. You couldn't root for any of them, even the killer.
Yeah.
I mean, but they did kind of give a little bit of an excuse as to why you should feel sorry for the person that died. But yeah, they were all hopeless. I mean, it was,
Of course, gotta mention John Travolta.
Yeah.
Who was going to
No
be in
Travolta.
Blowout with Brian De Palma.
Wasn't he in Welcome Back, Kotter at the time?
I
Yes, he
think
was.
so.
Yeah.
And you also
Yeah,
have Nancy Allen,
Yeah.
who will go on to
Nancy
play
Allen.
Lewis in RoboCop.
TJ Souls was up in there as well.
I think
That's right.
she got married to De Palma not
She
too
took
long
her
after
top
this, or
off?
right around
Yeah.
this time.
In Carrie.
Yes. Nancy Allen was married to him. Yeah.
Yep. Man,
Has anybody read the novel for Carrie?
Yeah.
I tried to read
Yeah, me
it,
too.
but I can't read. So it's like, or never learned to read.
I try to read, but this book bullshit.
I'll be honest. I've tried to read a lot of Stephen King's books, but his writing style doesn't mix well with the way I read.
I
mean,
like his.
anybody that takes
I
like
like
3
his
pages to
anthology.
explain to me what shade of the lamp shade is this color. All right, well, don't take 3 fucking pages to tell me the lamp shade is this color. I
The
fucking
movie
understand.
Mike likes the J.K. Rowling.
You must really like Dickens. He was only paid by the word and did whatever he could to stretch things out.
Yeah,
But
Stephen
I like the
King,
novel. I thought the
Liar,
novel was...
Liar, he'd be all about writing about how the pen is royal blue.
Yeah, it would take a chapter to explain how royal the royal blue pen was. Come on.
Like I
well,
write
Carrie,
novels, Mike, I'm a pretty wordy writer, so.
well, Carrie's a pretty short. Carrie's
Carrie's a pretty short novel, though. Yeah, it's a short read.
I liked the book. I thought the book I thought the movie was really faithful to the book. Yeah, I mean, I've always really liked Carrie. It's not really a scary movie. I just love, the technical aspects of the film, thanks to Brian De Palma. And it's definitely. I mean, you're rooting for Carrie when she's wiping out everybody at the prom. It's kind of satisfying in a weird way, watching her kill everybody with her mind. And it is kind of a sad film as well. But I've always really liked Carrie.
I like the split screen scenes at the end where they show you what happens in the gymnasium.
Prom
Because
night.
I thought that was really interesting, and that's still a very unique way to approach that type of scene.
And although I won't say the remake was terrible, I don't think it captured what made the original so good. I just think it felt like there was something missing there.
Which remake?
Totally.
The
It was
2002
totally
remake
unnecessary.
too, right?
movie?
The 2002
Yeah, there was.
remake? Yeah, there's a 2002 TV remake. I've seen all of them.
I'm talking about
The
the
one
latest
with,
one with
Yeah, the one with Chloe Moretz in it. It's
Yeah.
It's just too watered
good
down.
actors.
Yeah, that's what I
totally
felt
unnecessary.
too. I heard there's a director's cut supposedly of the new one, the new Carrie, but it's never going to be released because the movie didn't make enough of a profit. So.
I just thought it was pointless. I'm like, what the fuck am I watching this for? I'll just watch the original. Fuck this Xerox
Yeah,
shit.
pretty pointless.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty pointless. Totally unnecessary.
Tired of Xeroxes. Xerox my ass.
And then the
you know, fucking
2002
screen.
remake had like a meteor in it or something. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even remember that. I don't remember that one.
And did the Blob come out of the remake?
Carrie versus the Blob.
I think you pissed it off.
I mean, we had Carrie versus Jason in the New Blood. I mean,
Blood, so
Might as well.
why not Carrie versus the
Awesome.
Blob?
When's Carrie versus
It
Fred?
was actually brought to my attention before we started the show that AMC is doing a Stephen King Appreciation Day today.
Well, that
And,
would be
so-
cool if I had an AMC AMC theater near
Yeah.
me, but I don't.
So they
I
stole
used to
our
work
idea,
at
is what you're
AMC,
saying.
but not anymore. And that was in
AMC stole our
Oklahoma.
idea, is what you're saying. So we should get
Yeah,
some
so
money
they
for
must have
it.
heard about us.
I'm sure.
Once
I'm
again.
sure that's one of the residuals. Sure that's one. Anybody have anything they want to say in closing about Carrie before we move on?
I mean, you guys said it best. It's technically well done direction by Brian De Palma, and a lot of people said he was a rip-off of Hitchcock and stuff, but
Hitchcock.
I don't know what you guys thought of it, that comparison.
Definitely heavily influenced by Hitchcock, but so
I
were a
wouldn't
lot of
say
other
it's a
people.
rip-off. There are so many people that are influenced by so many other directors. I don't really call them rip-off artists.
Right.
I wouldn't even you can see the influence, but I would never. And I mean, I'm one to call somebody a ripoff.
Right.
I wouldn't.
I've seen a lot of De Palma movies, and I've never once thought, "Oh, he's a ripoff." He's too good. He's too good.
Yeah,
I think if anything he
that was
doesn't,
a criticism
I think
people bring up.
I think if anything he doesn't get the props he deserves because he's so often criticized as being a Hitchcock ripoff.
Well, if you think about a film he did, like, for example, I wouldn't really say Phantom of the Paradise is anything like Hitchcock. I wouldn't really say The Fury is really a Hitchcock type film.
Maybe Dress to Kill.
Yeah, that's a Hitchcockian film.
I mean, the more he rips off Hitchcock, is the more I like his films. Like,
And then there was another one.
Body Doubles, one of my
Body Double. That's what I
maybe
was
my
thinking.
favorite film.
Body Double, yeah.
I love Body
I
Double.
mean, Body Double was a total Hitchcock ripoff, but it's well done, and I really like it.
Yeah.
I like Body Double as well.
I enjoy that
It's
film.
really,
That was
really overlooked movie, actually.
Body Double is Hitchcock with a little bit of perversion thrown in, and I love that. I love the perversion. That's my favorite.
Little new wave '80s.
Exactly. Well, let's move on. In 1979, a TV movie was made based on Stephen King's novel Salem's Lot. It was directed by Tobe Hooper. What do you guys think about Salem's Lot?
I was like, it actually. I know we're going to talk about movies that actually scared us later on, this month. But that was definitely going to be one of them for me. It definitely creeped me out when I first saw it when I was a kid.
Oh, cool.
Just the thought
We'll
of
let you.
that one scene where the kid friend who's a vampire like floats up next to his window and shit. There's several scenes in that movie that just creeped me out when I was a kid.
Yeah. This is another one. A lot of people don't really talk about Salem's Lot, and I don't understand why, because I think it's really well done. Like those sequences where the kids are floating into the room, they shot all those in reverse, so they gave them this really creepy, movement. And I mean, nobody was doing that kind of stuff, especially in a TV movie at the time. So I mean, Hooper deserves a lot of credit, I think, for that. I think the fact that they changed, because in the novel, the guy, and I forget his name, the vampire guy, he's just a guy. But in the TV movie, they turned him into basically Nosferatu, which I thought was really cool too. All the vampires in the movie, they just look really creepy.
And there's another reason why the movie's awesome. David Soul. I mean, come on.
Exactly.
There you
Exactly. But what do you? What do the rest of you guys think about Salem's Lot?
The only thing that I like that version of it. The only thing that I always think of is the cover, because it does look like Count Orlok or something like that.
Yeah.
I love Nosferatu, so that's the first thing I always think of with that movie. I barely remember that version. I'm really grasping here. You guys are talking about it, and things are flickering in my head, but I don't remember very much at all.
Well, I think that another thing that's really creepy about it too is, it's set in the small town, and I mean, basically, the vampires are just sort of taking over the town. Everybody's being vampirized, so it's a small town, and one by one, everybody's being kind of turned into a vampire.
That's one I could never get into, honestly. I mean, I watched the full version, like not the edited Like I know later on they edited to like
Mhm.
2 hours. I watched the full one. I just thought I'm like, did this really need to be that long? When I saw like the 4 hour version, or whatever, I just felt it dragged on. I don't know if it felt like a low slow spots for me at least, but that's just me. I never saw the edited truncated version. I just thought it was. I didn't think it was a story that needed to be told that long for that amount of time. Like The Stand, that's a big story. I can understand. I have little issues with that.
Absolutely
So
disagree. Totally disagree.
that's fine. But Salem's
That's one of
Lot,
the reasons I hate. I don't like the original '79 version because the book is really a complex book with a ton of stuff going on, and there's no way you can like jam that into like an hour.
I haven't
25
read
minutes.
the book, so
This is like the template. This is my probably my second favorite book by him. I read it like every year. I love it. But this is like the book that set the template for pretty much every other book he wrote about small towns and small town happenings, and he really brought back a few years ago with Under the Dome. Like everything in Under the Dome is basically started here, where it's like jumping from points of view and stuff like that. And that's why I don't know. I haven't seen the '79 version in so many years, so I don't want to jump all over it. I remember just being upset because it just felt like they stripped the book bare to make a movie. But there's a lot I can't remember about it. Like the only thing I can remember really is that scene in the kitchen when the kid goes back to his house. His parents are already dead, and Marlowe is there, and the priest holds him off. Like I remember that scene.
So is there a lot of stuff in the book? Because I've never read the book. Is there a lot of stuff in the book that was in the movie? That a lot more to it, or a lot more that happened, a lot more that was
It's
left
not necessarily
out?
a lot more happening. It's the problem with like we're going to talk about. It's the problem with a lot of Stephen King adaptations is that they're layered and they take their time and they have cinematic moments, but they weren't written to be movies. So anytime you get a script going, you have to do a lot of changes. Sometimes that can be done pretty well. I think they do that well. We'll get into the ones that I think they do pretty well. But I just mean, I've never just, I don't know. You know, he didn't write down to write a movie. He wrote down to write a novel, and sometimes that's apparent, and sometimes it's not because sometimes the novel's, short enough or something. This isn't a huge novel, but I mean, it's what, like 700 pages? It's a little over 600 pages, so, it's bigger than average. Certainly bigger than an average novel. And it's not that there's more happening, and there's a bunch of stuff in here that you can cut out, and it's not like it necessarily... I guess because the whole point really is that it's supposed to be a slow build. It's supposed to be that vampires take over this town in such a gradual way that nobody even sees it coming. And that's just hard to do in a movie. That's not me saying that filmmakers are terrible, incompetent people. That's just me saying over the course of a movie, it's hard to really get across that thing that this is a very slow, gradual happening that like 99% of the townsfolk have no idea is happening. Like that's just very hard to convey. So I'm not here to shit all over the movie or anything like that. But I mean, if there is a long version, I'd be very interested to see it. Yeah.
I think
So there's a long version of the '79 one.
Well, it was a miniseries for TV first, and then like the home versions that went out were just edited down to be a movie.
Okay, yeah, I've only seen the edited version, so again, so I can't comment. So I'd be very interested to see the rest of the thing, and that's why I like the 2004 version because it is longer and more miniseries-esque. Even though they actually make a few changes in 2004 ones, and that I'm mostly happy with, but we're not there yet. So anyway, I just don't want people to get the wrong idea and have me think that like, they did a really bad job. I just think this is going to be the start of a lot of problems you're going to have adapting a King works. This is really a slow, gradual kind of book, and it's hard, just hard to make movies that way.
Well, in defense of people that do adaptations, like that's a 700-page book. Your average movie script is a minute per page. So you're trying to take 700 pages and cut it down to 120 pages. And then you have a writer like Stephen King that overwrites. So it's like, what do I keep that's relevant to the plot? What do I keep for fan service? What do I keep for visual? And and I have a budget, and I have this, and I have that. So Stephen King doesn't, like you said, he doesn't write for movies. He writes for the novels. Well, it's really hard to take a writer with his style and kind of cull it down into a bite-sized movie. So
you're talking about Salem's Lot?
Yeah,
the original.
Okay. All right.
79 Salem's Lot. What'd you think?
I haven't seen it in a
what's your thoughts on
long
it?
time, but I do remember liking the guy who played the vampire. His name was Reggie Nalder, I think. I always remember he creeped me out. He had this Nosferatu look about him. And David Soul did all right. I half expected, though. Honestly, I wish Kolchak showed up. That would probably help.
That'd have been awesome.
That would help the movie be a little bit more engaging. It's a TV miniseries, so I mean, it's pretty long in the tooth.
And it was kind of an early adaptation for, this is like the first TV adaptation of his work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
So, so there was definitely in the early stages of trying to figure out how to adapt Stephen King.
Right.
I haven't seen the Rob Lowe and Donald Sutherland version, so
It's
I
good.
don't really know.
I think it's really good.
Talk about it later.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Yeah.
I mean, I wish it could have been like R-rated and had a little more, strong content in it. But apart from that, I think it's really well done. And I really like the casting, even though it just seems like they just took a bunch of like sort of B-list names and threw them in. I actually thought they were good. I was happiest with the kid. They actually aged the kid up a little for the remake, which usually bothers me, but I thought worked pretty well. He's like 14.
I'm actually surprised they haven't done like a
Show?
film, a new film version of Salem's Lot, like a theatrical film version of
I
Salem.
think it would work the same as a show, the same way they did. Although Under the Dome is completely different from the book. All Under the Dome is like the same concept and everything thrown out. But I just mean, I don't know. I think it would be cool. It would be better than Under the Dome. I don't even know why they made Under the Dome if they were going to change literally everything about it, like everything. And I really like the guy that's the head of that. Shit, what's his name? He does comics. It'll come to me later. Anyway.
I think they did release Salem's Lot in theaters in an edited version, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
But I know it was
they
on
did
home
do a
video.
theatrical.
I know it was on
Brian
home
K. Vaughan, by the
video.
way.
Yeah.
Brian K. Vaughan, by the way. Brian K. Vaughan, who I really respect as a writer, and he's written a lot of really great comics, especially he's really known for stuff like Why the Last Man and a lot of really critically acclaimed stuff. Anyway, he's like the main, I don't know, whatever, his writer or something for the Under the Dome show, and he just changed everything. But anyway, sorry.
You guys familiar with
Well, and
Return to Salem's Lot?
Well, that's what I was getting at. I was getting at the theatrical. They did a theatrical sequel called Return to Salem's Lot. I think Larry Cohen wrote and directed it. And, actually caught the tail end of it on like some movie channel the other night, and I'd forgotten just how like good bad it is. It's really bad, but it's bad in a pretty entertaining way.
But if you've seen Michael Moriarty,
finest hours.
What's weird is there's so many.
Yeah, if anything he's in is worth a watch.
There's so many TV series and adaptations and stuff of Stephen King, but after Salem's Lot, there wasn't another one till It. There were none in the 80s, and then there was like an avalanche going to the 90s. And
I liked It's Alive 3 with Michael Moriarty, mainly because Michael Moriarty was in it.
Excuse me.
Anything he's in is gold.
I have to admit.
I wonder why there's not a TV miniseries, because they made a shitload of movies.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know.
I think that's a new one that I just announced. They're doing The Mist as a miniseries.
Mist?
Yeah.
I know they're doing Mr. Mercedes is going to be a miniseries.
Well, maybe they didn't do a lot of TV adaptations in the 80s because of all the censorship crap that was going on in the movies and everything. Stephen King's material tends to be quite aggressive.
Well,
I know.
and I think
because like that was like really him when he exploded, right? The 80s, he was the guy.
Yeah.
Like he still is popular.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when he really exploded, and that's when he was, even though he was a functional alcoholic, he was an extremely functional alcoholic, and he wrote tons of stuff. It makes people like me so jealous. Like he doesn't even remember writing The Running Man. He wrote The Running Man in like
That's
a
the
week.
best story.
He has no memory of writing it. He's just like, oh, apparently I wrote
Richard
this book
Bachman.
while I was.
Several of his
Eye of the
novels
Dragon?
from that time he doesn't remember writing.
He did
Several.
he changed his name. Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
I think he wrote a movie. Wrote a book about dragons. I think.
Yeah, the Eye of the Dragon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Eyes of the Dragon. That's what he wrote for his kid.
Well,
because they wanted him to write something like that a kid could actually read. So it's like a fairy
And
tale.
like Cole was saying, I think as we get deeper into the 80s, we're going to find, he became the man in the 80s. He became like that rock star author where you could sell a movie based on his name as the author. He had no affiliation with the movie aside from the fact that he wrote the book that the movie's based on.
Or the short story.
Yeah.
Exactly. He was so hot in the 80s that, I mean, his stuff was just gold. So, I mean, they just churned him out. Whatever he wrote immediately got bought up, the film rights, and they were off to make the movie. So, it actually, it reminds me of, and I'm sure we'll talk about this when we get into the lesser quality ones, it reminds me of an interview with Stephen King where he said he was at a signing somewhere and some woman said, well, what do you think about them ruining your book? And he pointed to the shelves and he said, the book's right there. There's nothing wrong with it. The movie's the movie and the book is the book.
Yeah,
So,
he's a lot more
Well,
easygoing
he's
than a lot. He's a lot more easygoing than a lot of writers are, and than I would be and stuff. But I mean, it is the right approach. Like
Books
I said,
don't have a budget. Books don't have to hire actors. Books don't have to deal with that. Books don't have to adapt themselves to all audiences. So
if you're a writer, you don't have like a director has a producer standing next to him talking about cut this scene, cut that scene, move faster, do this.
You do have
know,
editors.
You don't have somebody in the room when you're writing a book telling you that sentence doesn't work, get rid of that character. You're just by yourself when you're writing.
yeah,
Sort of. I mean, you do go through editors, but
yeah, but that's after you've probably already written the book.
yeah, and like I said,
And
once you've written stuff the way Stephen King has, you do sort of get carte blanche.
After
It's
he
like,
got to
okay,
a certain level, nobody
yeah,
else did.
exactly. Right. So I'm not saying that, but I just mean he is. I mean, he has probably the right attitude. Like I remember, but it is true just to stand up for that because I'm just sort of like that because writers. I mean, I hate spiking this way. Like I'm on the same level as somebody like Stephen King or people like I'm not even fucking published. But I just mean I do think it's true. We like when you write, you're God. What you write is that's it, right? So I mean, I just watched the other day one of my favorite movies, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. The writer of that book hates the movie. He despised it. He was going. He came this close to like suing the shit out of them for it, and somebody like convinced him not to and stuff like that. And why? It's a wonderfully done movie and stuff like that. He just hates it because it's not what he wrote. They took things and changed them, and maybe they changed some things and made them work, but it wasn't
Made them
what he
better.
wrote. You know, it wasn't his book. And I can totally understand that. So I always thought Stephen King had like the sort of the right attitude. He's just like, well, you know, like I said, my book is my book. Whatever adaptations do, it won't hurt my book. My book is still there.
well, the guy that
I'm Stephen King. I can't expect them to write as good as I can, but they try. You know, they try. You give an A for effort, right?
I mean, there are some books that are worse than the movie adaptations. I personally think Jaws is a much better movie than a book.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and the guy who wrote Clockwork Orange, he hated that book. He wrote that book just out of money, just for money.
Yeah.
He didn't put two thoughts into it, and I mean, it's Stanley Kubrick turned it into, I mean, the film that it is. I mean,
Yeah, I read that book
So-
and I was like, ugh, I don't know. Or like the Planet of the Apes book by Pierre Morel. Wasn't really the biggest fan of that either.
But yeah, I mean, Stephen King,
and
he can be pretty brutally honest. I mean, the next one we're talking about is Mr. Stanley Kubrick. I mean, we know the whole history already.
Exactly.
About that.
One time he wasn't too happy.
Yeah. Well, it's any closing thoughts on Salem's Lot, Rahu? I think you should definitely go check it out. I like it quite a bit. It's got a great mood, great atmosphere.
I need to rewatch it because it's been a long time. So.
I have seen it. I just
But I
remember
don't. I know I didn't really care for it.
And maybe I have.
There's the edited version, then there's the TV version. So
Yeah,
You know,
I think it's longer.
I have different expectations for different levels. If it's an A film, if it's a B film, if it's a TV movie. You know, to me, TV movies are at the bottom, and I have no expectations. So if I end up liking it even a little bit, then they did a good job.
And I think for a TV movie, I thought it was very cinematic, and I think that's, that's thanks to Tobe Hooper.
yeah, exactly. It's a rare thing you see directors like that do TV movies. So
To be or not to be Hooper, he didn't suck. But no.
We'll get to another Stephen King adaptation that Tobe Hooper did that has very, very mixed feelings from a lot of people. So we'll get to that a little bit later. We'll get to that a little bit later. But let's move on to 1980, and let's talk about Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
I think the first question has to be made for each people. Which do you prefer? Do you prefer the book? Do you prefer the movie? Or
don't
the
know how to
TV
read
movie that was like the book. Okay, the TV movie because it's pretty much the book.
With the guy from
That's what Stephen
Wings?
King said.
with
Yeah.
the
At least that's what Stephen King says. And I'm just
not a
curious,
cricket
which
bat,
of you do prefer which one and why?
Technically, I prefer
The guy from Wings, Jack Nicholson.
what was it?
Or even just
I've
the book.
actually, that's one of the few. That's one
Cocaine
of the few.
Mountain, that's
I'm just messing around. I'm one of. I've actually not read the book. I have seen the TV version that Stephen King endorses, and I thought it was okay for. It felt very TV movie-ish to me. Which I
Yeah.
mean, we'll talk about that more when we get to it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love The Shining. And what was Stephen King's major problem with it? That I think in his book, the dad.
It was very
sort of
personal because it dealt with alcoholism, and he was dealing problems through that book. I think he felt it sort of, I want to say shortchanged it, sort of. I don't know that John Nicholson was too broad.
Yeah.
He was psycho from day one.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that transition to normal guy to psycho.
Yeah.
Although that's why I love the Shining movie. I love Jack Nicholson and all the direction. But I can understand Stephen King's point. He wanted a transition of not be psycho from minute one. Have that transition of, oh, he's a normal guy, and then he goes psycho.
Yeah.
But you see Jack Nicholson, you're like, okay, he's psychotic from the first minute.
Yeah, I think part of the problem he had with it as well was that at the end, at least in the TV version, at least, and again, I've not read the book, but the dad kind of turns it around. He sort of,
Yeah.
Exactly. There's a redemptive quality to the ending of at least the TV version, and I'm guessing the book too that we don't see in Stanley Kubrick's film.
I definitely prefer Stanley Kubrick's. That's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorites he did. That's one of my favorite top 5 Stephen King films. Well, technically, I guess, since Stephen King hates the shit out of it. But I love the score. I love the mood. I love the direction. I know he seemed like a pain in the ass directing that film, but I thought it is a really well done, beautiful movie, and it's John Nicholson at his most over the top, but it's the most fun I've seen a performance. And
didn't it take them like 2 years to shoot that freaking movie? I mean, they were like
it seemed like
I wouldn't be surprised with Kubrick.
hotel for like 2 years shooting that. Yeah. So I mean, they all probably went crazy by the end of it. And I mean, Jack smuggled on some white powder to help get him through. So I mean, the whole thing was just crazy. I think it was Jack Nicholson he was supposed to do another film, and they had to push it back because he was doing The Shining.
Shelley Duvall.
Stanley Kubrick was Stanley Kubrick is just awful to Shelley Duvall. Which can you blame him?
Well, but you know what? That's the biggest shortcoming of the movie. It's Shelley Duvall. I can't stand her in that movie.
I can't stand
I think in a weird way, Stanley Kubrick wanted the audience to root for Jack to kill her. He wanted the audience. He wanted the audience to be in Jack's shoes and say, "Yes, kill her,
kill that bitch."
I didn't mind her too much. I'll be honest. I didn't mind Shelley Duvall that much.
She was great as
I'm alone in that.
I couldn't even look at
I'm
it.
alone in that.
I didn't hate her
You
either.
even look at her?
This is a movie
She frustrates me
that
too.
I did not like the first time I saw it. This is a movie that the first exposure I had to it was of a paperback that I got from Goodwill when I was with my dad. And then my mom found out about it and was like mad at me. Was like, "You're too young, you can't have this book," and then took it away from me, and I never was able to read it anyway. And then I rented. I had the film on VHS, and I watched it on VHS, and that was not fair to the film because it's full screen. It crops out half the fucking movie.
Yeah.
And then finally, I didn't like it after seeing the full screen mess. And I was like, oh, I thought it was a bit overrated. And then one time, I went and saw the Blu-ray, I picked it up, and then I came back home, and I watched it with my surround sound with an HD flat screen, and I was just entranced with the film. and it's a movie that I definitely do really, really like now. I think Jack Nicholson did a great job as a character. I didn't mind Shelley Duvall. I think this is my favorite Kubrick film. I could watch 2001, but I'd rather watch The Shining over 2001: A Space Odyssey. And I just love certain shots in this film, like the hallway of blood. It's just it's
Yeah,
a very elevator opens up and blood just pours out, and it's just an unholy flood of blood.
Or even the typewriter scene.
Yeah.
Just the
Yeah,
reveal.
regardless of if it's a good adaptation or not, it's a triumph in its own right, just because of the cinematography and.
Oh, absolutely! The opening credits alone is just. You know, I'm from the Pacific Northwest, so I've driven around areas like that. I've been to the Timberline Lodge, so it's a beautiful location.
And what's funny is when that movie came out, critics did not like it, and it did not do well at the box office.
Nope.
Right. It's true.
So I'm not sure why critics didn't like it. I'm not sure. I think it's, and maybe this
Shelley
is just,
Duvall. Screams nonstop for the last 45 minutes.
And maybe this is. Have you guys heard the theory that just snow movies in general don't do well? Audiences see snow and they go, no. Are you guys aware? Have you guys ever heard of that? Snow movies just don't do well.
Oh, that must be
They
why
didn't do very well.
I
John Carpenter's Thing was a flop.
don't.
Dreamcatcher was clearly a masterpiece, if only. That snow bias just turned into.
But what about
Home Alone? Home Alone has snow.
Cliffhanger's great, and that was a hit.
Yeah.
I don't know about The Shining. It was a slow, psychological, long film.
Yeah.
It kind of wore down. Kind of wore you down, made you think. And so, when people go to the movies, not everybody wants to do that kind of an experience. And that it was very much a Jack Nicholson film. I mean, he's a personality that kind of takes over a project.
Yeah.
And if you don't like Jack Nicholson, then you're probably not going to like The Shining. But I happen to be a big fan of Jack Nicholson, and I love The Shining.
Maybe some people felt it pretentious.
Wendy, darling, light of my life. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm going to bash your fucking brains in.
Well, I think critics were probably already had a bad taste for that movie in their mouth simply because it took so long to make.
Yeah.
And they probably had preconceived notions about Stanley Kubrick being maybe pretentious or a prima donna or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I wonder how much we talked about Clockwork Orange. How much of the negativity, from that film came, clouded over this one?
Ah,
That's true.
Because he wasn't exactly a darling of the critics because of that film.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I remember hearing an interview with Stephen King where he was talking about he's never really opened up much about The Shining, but he said something about Stanley Kubrick calling him in the middle of the night and asking him these really weird questions like, do you believe in hell? What do you think happens to people after they die? Just all these weird questions. Like 3 o'clock in the morning, it's Stanley Kubrick on the phone. Do you believe in hell? What do you think happens to people when they die? I mean, relax. You're shit. Yeah. I mean, Stephen King's probably like rolling over in bed to his wife and going, "This guy's a maniac. He's going to destroy my book."
No, maybe Stephen King was into his 4th line of his second 12-pack, and it just fucking blew his mind. Shit, I am way too fucked up for this kind of shit.
Really?
I'll forget.
I don't think The Shining is a really deep movie like some fans do. Like the fans on Room 237, which was one of the worst films I had ever seen.
Yeah, I know. I saw that with you.
I know. We saw it together.
God.
It was the worst fucking documentary.
Those people have way too much time on their hands. These people have actually sat and watched The Shining on 2 separate screens.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, they overlapped the film and played it one version of it forward and one version of it in reverse because they think there's some sort of secret messages in the film. If you overlap them They're talking about some of the craziest theories you've. I mean, like literally, I was 5 minutes into this movie and I was going, "Are you freaking kidding me? Really? Really?"
If you look at the scene, it shows that Kubrick actually directed the fake moon landing.
Now, if you look at the can of peas behind Jack Nicholson, that proves he's an alien from Xantos.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know,
If you look at this poster in the
I have to watch this
background,
movie now.
it's a minotaur. It's obvious this poster of a skier is a minotaur. And then the maze is like the minotaur and the maze. And then all
Do you
this
remember
stupid
when they?
shit. And
Do you
there's a
remember when they were
secret
talking
window.
about?
Which one?
Invisible
Yeah, the
room or
window.
some
Do
shit.
you remember the scene where they were talking about where Jack Nicholson first meets the guy at the hotel and the way he sidles around the desk and kind of moves his pelvis in a weird way? They're like, there's definitely homoerotic overtones. And I'm going, what the f***? He just walked around the desk, man. What is your problem?
He's not
Well,
up on the
something-
desk. He's not like,
something
oh,
about
yeah, I love this desk.
Oh,
The
yeah.
way the shadow of the sunlight hit his pants made it look like he had a boner or something. There's some kind of weird shit like that.
You look at the typewriters, the
Yeah.
German typewriters.
The Holocaust.
It's about the Holocaust. This whole movie's
Well,
about
and
the
then, like,
Holocaust.
They were like, you see
Fuck,
that
dude.
can of peas there. It's turned around so you can see an Indian head. It's clearly about the genocide of the Native Americans. What?
Exactly.
I'm like, great, this is a movie about schizophrenics. Okay.
Yeah. It's like I couldn't stop watching it. I just kept shaking my head like going, are you serious?
And I can't
But I
believe
couldn't
this
stop
got
watching
It's a
acclaim.
comedy, I guess.
This got
but
critical acclaim. Like, this gets,
I
like,
don't get it.
5
just couldn't believe
stars
it.
from people, and
I couldn't believe that they were able to maintain that level of stupidity throughout the whole film. I was impressed.
Yeah.
I was seriously
Just added
impressed.
that to my nephew.
It takes effort.
The only thing
The
the only thing that I thought was interesting
Blow
about it
your
was when they talked about Danny's sweater, because Danny's sweater's got like a rocket ship taking off on it.
yeah, but
God.
That could have been intentional on Kubrick's part because everybody thinks he shot the moon landing, and he was clearly the
really
kind of
what
guy.
that
who-
was, according
Yeah.
to someone who actually worked on the film, who was a seamstress who worked on clothes and made clothes for the movie, she just decided, okay, that's something a little boy would like to wear. A rocket ship, and then put, 11 on there. Whether it's a cover-up, I don't know, because I know I've heard people in comments tell me it's a cover-up when I say that, but,
that room 237 is a mess, man. It's just
I don't know,
a crazy movie.
With
Actually,
Star Wars
Steve,
being
that was
popular and
the serious
Alien and all that stuff, it's very possible that the seamstress did pull that out because space age shit was popular with kids at that time. But
Yeah.
you could come up with something like that and they'll say, "Oh, it's a cover-up." You just don't know the truth.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I wasn't wearing my tinfoil hat. I'll be right back.
it's all covered.
I mean, they had a
Yeah.
scene in the film where they showed a shot of the sky, and they're like, "There's a subliminal message in the sky," and I'm like, I don't
I can't
see
wait to
anything.
watch this. I cannot wait to watch this.
We sold
It used to
Right
be
on my
on-
alley.
It used to be on either Netflix or Hulu
It's on
Plus.
Netflix. I
I
just
don't.
added it.
Okay,
list.
great. Enjoy.
It'll
Enjoy.
blow your
I
mind.
will.
Your mind will be blown.
Their
I actually
common
had
sense
the
will
great
die.
pleasure. I actually had the great pleasure of seeing the movie on the big screen. And,
Oh,
when they did a re-release of it, and it
nice.
was really cool to see on the big screen.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Room 237. See that on the screen?
yes, exactly.
That's mind blowing.
But yeah.
yeah, the
But Joey,
the
what can-
Shining theater. Wow,
What else?
wow,
Yeah,
that's really
yeah,
cool.
it was awesome. But I mean, what else can you really say about The Shining? I mean, it's personally, I think it's a classic. I think there's still detractors out there of the movie that say that it's, whatever. It's
Well, I had
disjointed or it's
someone
too
on a
long.
review I did of the film, like, just get really pissed and be like, "It's nothing like the book. It's fucking terrible." Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, teach their own.
Maybe
Kubrick's
it's not
a
like
hack.
the book, but in its own right, it's great. It's got
I
cool
actually-
cinematography. It's
Better
directed
than-
well. It's a tour de force
That's
by
just
Jack
me.
Nicholson.
Personally,
Yes. Yes.
Well, I don't like it. So.
That's
I
Please,
say
That's
that.
expected.
Yeah, I know. That's what everybody says.
please explain.
yeah,
Please explain.
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, both.
Okay, I think it does a lot of things well. Like, I love where it's set. they picked the perfect location. That's exactly how I pictured that place when I read the book and stuff. So I love that, and it is shot well. And I'm a big fan of Kubrick. I'm always floored when people say it's like one of their favorite Kubrick films. I'm like, really? Kubrick, who's done all these awesome films, and you're putting the Stephen King adaptation up there? I was like, what about like Paths of Glory or Lolita or Clockwork Orange? No. So that always really surprises me. But I don't think it's like poorly done or anything. The main problem is I can't take it seriously. I can't take that kid going, Miss Zoe isn't here, Mrs. Torrance. Same thing with Raiho. I just want to jump through the screen and bash Shelley Duvall's face in. And I'm just not really a Jack Nicholson fan, and I don't think he took the role seriously. He took it and just turned it into his own thing. He didn't have any regard for a script or anything, and just did his own thing. And it's kind of just the Jack Nicholson show. I think it has good atmosphere, good suspense, good tone, well shot and everything. The little girl stuff is creepy. Love those shots of the hallways, the blood, the elevator. So it has a lot going for it. But at the end of the day, the characters absolutely destroy it for me. All of them. The only character I really like is the ghost that he's seeing that's like telling him stuff about like what he had to do with his family and stuff. I liked that guy a lot.
Oh, come on, Scatman's gotta be.
Yeah, I love Scatman Crothers.
Scatman Crothers up in his like little shack with the naked chick with the afro up on the wall. That's another thing that the movie doesn't. The movie really doesn't get that.
Well, he's waiting for the call to be on Transformers.
The movie doesn't really get the shining across very well, does it? Like, yeah, okay, so the kid has this weird sense, and he can use it to call him, and then he calls him, and he immediately is killed, and you're like, well, that was a big nothing. Which I guess is maybe
as Shining itself goes, it might as well not even be in the movie.
It might as well not.
Yeah.
Like, it might as well just have a completely different title.
That was one of the best gags on The Simpsons, the shitting. It's just like...
You want to get sued?
The shitting.
But I can still enjoy the movie, but I hate all the characters, and it would be great if they all died. And I don't know, it's just silly to me. It's silly. Him going, chasing her with the bat, and here's Johnny. It's silly. And him freezing to death with like a weird grin. It's silly. Like, to me, it's all just, I can't take it seriously. To me, it's like a goofy kids movie type thing. Isn't here, Mrs. Torrance, Red Rum. Like, I don't know. It was just all silly. It seemed like a very straightforward movie.
I really love the soundtrack.
With a great sound. Again, I thought it had, and that was the problem for me. It would go from these like really eerie shots with like strings, and everything would be really atmospheric, and then one of the characters would show up and talk and ruin it. So,
well, there's one scene I have to admit is pretty absurd in the film. Is the one with like the guy with the bear mask or something.
Yeah, well, there's some weird stuff.
Blowing some guy.
I like that.
Which I really.
Yeah.
But
I like that.
And I mean, and this isn't even an adaptation thing. I never thought the book was that great
really,
either.
but-
I never really understood the appeal of the book really either. It's an okay read, but it's another one of those things where it just seemed like Stephen King kind of broke down story conventions and threw in random crap, which he would do later on too.
Yeah.
And sometimes it actually works. I don't really think it works in this.
I remember the poster being terrible, like the yellow
Oh, it's
poster
horrific.
with with Jack Nicholson looking like a newborn baby or like an unborn baby or some shit. It was terrible. Banana yellow. Yellow is not sorry.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
The best thing I've seen for it was like back in like 2002, 2003. I remember it was like, I guess it wasn't on YouTube, because it like predates YouTube. You could see it online where like they had like some sort of like contest for people to like to take footage of movies and make a trailer, but try to
Just
make,
put the link in the chat.
okay, and try and they try to make the trailer be completely different from what the actual movie was. And what most people did was they took like normal movies and like made everything dark and fast cuts to make them look like horror movies. Like somebody did like Titanic, and they just had all these
Yeah, I
shots
remember
of people
that
running and screaming. But the one that won was completely different, and it was The Shining, and they called it Shining, and it was supposed to be like this happy thing about like this guy like getting to know his family and stuff.
I
And
remember that trailer.
they got like Salisbury
incredible.
Hill playing, and he's just like, I'm your new father, and he's jumping around and playing with the kids and stuff. Like, it's really good. It's really funny. Check it out. It's really funny. It's like Shining. And it's like Jack Nicholson going, it's really
Some of the changes I thought they made were for cinematic purposes. In the book, he kills Halloran with the croquet mallet.
Oh yeah, the axe is
In the movie, it's an
axe is
axe.
way
I thought an axe is definitely more visceral and more visual. It's
I
more
agree with
interesting than
The axe
croquet
is
mallet.
better. The
I
croquet
agree with
mallet's
that,
just
too.
stupid. It's
It's
silly.
stupid.
Did he kill him in the book? Because I don't think he dies in the TV movie, so maybe they changed that. So I didn't know if he died in the
The only
book.
scene I really like is before the bats. I do like the typewriter stuff and the the reveal of all the words, all like that is pretty cool. I like that, but then of course Shelley Duvall shows up. And, yeah. Like I said, like
Shelley Duvall because of
Popeye. I knew you were gonna say
she's,
Popeye.
well, again, she's
Popeye.
perfectly cast for it. But like I just imagine like for that whole movie, like I assume that like what's his name, the director. Kubrick, you know, he took Jack Nicholson aside and just said, "Be relentless on this woman. Be in her face, freak her out." I guess assume like even in between takes, she's going to the bathroom and stuff.
Yeah.
He's getting people to like follow her around like firecrackers and stuff, and smashing windows around her. So she's just like, I don't think she slept that whole time. I think it took them 2 years to film it, and she didn't sleep at all during it because that's how she looked. She looked so frazzled.
Yeah. There's a really funny, really clever parody of The Shining on the making of the film by this YouTuber named Monkey and Apple, and he does this whole thing where he has it where he plays all the roles and the director, and then has an actress play Shelley Duvall, and I just really his sense of humor I really do enjoy, and I think it's a really clever video, and I do definitely recommend that to fans of The Shining who haven't seen it yet. He even talks about the guy who made the poster, and he's all like, "What is this? This is terrible."
He's done a lot of really good like Batman, Dark Knight, Joker videos too. He's pretty funny. Yes.
He just did a Mad Max one recently.
As far as them changing the Jack Nicholson character, I kind of caught on the fact that he was a recovering alcoholic and that he had hurt the child in a drunken rage prior. He had hurt the kid's arm. And he was really being watched, and this was his moment to, prove that he was over it and be responsible and take this job and write a book, and everything was supposed to be good, and that weakness was why the ghost, basically picked on him to be the next person or whatever. But I don't know. I didn't need an hour backstory on his alcoholism. I went right with it from the beginning. I didn't need any help with that.
I felt like that all came across. I feel like that came across. It just he ruined it. His performance.
What do you guys think about the closing shot of the party scene? And there's Jack Nicholson right in the middle of it. What do you guys think that's about?
I felt that he had been absorbed by the history of the house, that he had taken his place.
Yeah.
That was reserved for it.
I'm okay with that. But that was pretty cool.
I kind of didn't get it. It confused me. I'm like.
Well, it was kind of like the bartender. Wasn't he the guy that was before Jack?
He was like the character.
He was the last
So whenever if you fail at what you're supposed to do, you then take the place of that person. So when the next one comes in, it'll be Jack.
Yeah.
That's kind of what
take the place. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's bad, but I can't believe people call it a classic. To me, that's ridiculous to call it a classic, but a lot of people do. So hey,
I call it a classic.
There you go.
I'm the rebel. Classic.
I'm the rebel.
Enjoy.
Thank you. My cream soda.
You didn't have to add insult.
Toast is mad because you got cream soda.
Somebody brought a Popeye at one point. You're just trying to poke the bear.
No, they got me on it.
I know there was always talks of a sequel or a prequel.
I remember
he wrote a sequel.
Yeah. He wrote a sequel.
Dr. Sleep.
Which I've not read.
I never read it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I tried reading that one too, but
I haven't read it.
I couldn't do it. So,
just didn't work out for you, did it? Or
no.
Hey, Orc, how about you just decide to tell us about the books you did read? That'll save us some
lot
time.
of Goosebumps, a lot of Animorphs.
Hey, I read Goosebumps too. I remember.
Yeah, fuck yeah, man! That's what I'm talking about.
You guys are missing out. You should have been reading Banicula.
By the way, Orc,
Hey, I
have you
read
seen
that
The
too.
Shining?
Yeah.
So what do you think?
I think there was a sequel to Banicula too.
I read all the Baniculas. I read Banicula, Celery Stalks at Midnight, Holiday Inn, Return to Holiday Inn, and Nighty Nightmare. That's them.
Actually, Orc, what do you think about any of the Stephen King films so far? I don't know if we got your thoughts on Carrie or
Carrie
or Shining.
Did they pwn?
They fucking
Oh, they drove to.
They were, dude, Salem's Lot the first one was so Gosu. Holy shit, you don't even know. Carrie, the jump scare at the end got me. I was like, alright, so it's over. And then, she pops up out of the grave. Spoiler alert!
Oh.
Yeah. And then I don't know. I have like my top 3 for winter-ish movies, I guess you could say. The Thing, Shining, and then 30 Days of Night. That's like my top 3.
That's pretty good.
What's your thoughts on The Shining? Tell us what you think about The Shining.
Awesome. I believe, wasn't it? You said it was shot somewhere in Pacific Northwest, right?
Thought it
Or
was
was
good.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's based on a
think so.
hotel in Colorado, right? Is that?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. And I've been there, and it's pretty cool, you know. One that was
They
based
shot
on.
the interiors in a hotel in Colorado.
Yeah.
The outside
didn't,
was Timberline.
You didn't meet a man in a hotel room wearing a bear outfit, did you?
No. But
No, he met the woman that was naked and
Uh.
shit hanging off her. Trying to
I'll
come
admit that's
after
that's an effective scene. That's pretty creepy.
in the
That's a pretty
shower.
effective scene.
It's very erotic.
Very.
I met a lot of people at hotels. You know,
Erotic?
But yeah.
People in
It is for
hotels.
me, at least.
I think it's the anti-erotic
usual
for
for
me. It's the boner killer.
Yeah.
I just love decrepit old women. What's wrong with that? Don't judge me.
All those in favor of
judgment here.
necrophilia, say aye.
You're off the show.
Oh, that's cool.
I didn't say aye.
Any closing thoughts on The Shining?
Overrated.
Whoa!
Awesome poster.
Classic.
Cream soda.
Masterpiece.
I just
good one.
It's definitely a movie that's
Good one.
divided.
Yeah.
Even to this day, it's definitely of all of Stephen King's adaptations. I think it's one of the most divided movies.
I think it looks great. That's my favorite thing about it, is it looks great.
It does. It's excellent cinematography.
Even the Kubrick films I don't like look great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just it.
Let's move on. And let's talk about Creepshow, for which Stephen King wrote the screenplay, as well as a couple of the short stories. Some of the vignettes in the film are based on short stories that he'd written. Creepshow, what do you guys think?
One of my all-time favorite films. Actually, I would probably say it is my favorite horror film. It was one of the first. It was the first horror film I saw all the way through.
Really?
Because my stepdad, he liked the film and he had it on VHS, and he ended up letting me watch it when I was, I think, with him when I wasn't really old enough to watch it by myself. So it started me off into the world of EC comic style horror, and it also led into my love for Tales from the Crypt, the TV series. So, and I'm even wearing a Creepshow T-shirt, and I have, I'm a big fan of the film, and I love horror anthologies. I love a really good horror anthology, and I think it's one of the best ever made, really. A bad horror anthology is even worse than just a bad movie, because it's like multiple bad films. But a good horror anthology, I think, is really awesome because you get to see more than one really good movie in one film. They're short films, but I still think it's a really unique, fun experience. Creepshow's a lot of fun. It really does capture the EC comic style really well, with the lighting, with the way it's directed, the way it's shot. All the stories, I think, are fun and entertaining. I'd probably say my favorites are The Crate and They're Creeping Up on You. And I do like Father's Day. In fact, I also watched it with my actual dad before, and we have a little running joke with Father's Day, where every time Father's Day comes around, we all are like, "It's Father's Day, and I want my cake." So, yeah. So exactly. Really enjoy that segment. Tom Savini did a great job with the makeup effects. It's fun too on Father's Day with Ed Harris dancing, which is something you never really see ever again.
It's a weird moment.
For good reason. Because he's not really a good dancer.
Only George Romero could talk him into dancing.
And then his death scene is I thought was just so ridiculous. Like just laying there, and he's like, This is the slowest moving headstone ever. Just slowly slides.
He was paralyzed with fear.
I know. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I think Creepshow is sort of the quintessential horror anthology film.
Yeah.
And because you've got Stephen King and you've got George Romero in there, both
Yeah.
of who were big comics fans. The movie's colorful. It's really well shot. I love the transitions between the
I love
film
the
and like the
opening.
comic.
With the
Oh,
comic
yeah.
animation and the score by John Harrison.
Oh, the score is awesome. The score's awesome. Yeah, it's just a lot of fun. Just a really, really fun movie.
It's one of those films where the tagline doesn't lie. It really is the most fun you'll ever have being scared.
It's true. It's true. Mike, what do you think about Creepshow?
I love it. I mean, the cast, Romero, King. I mean, every story is entertaining. It was beautifully done. Like you said, the comic book transitions and I just thought it was great. I mean, it was one of Leslie Nielsen's last bad guy roles. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
he was in Prom Night as the principal, and then he started doing the comedy, and this was like his last really, I don't know, asshole type performance.
See, I didn't know he had that in him because I never knew him as a serious actor. I always knew
Same
him
thing.
as
I went backwards.
the naked
I saw
guy.
Creepshow and I was like, what?
He
I
was
know.
like he was like on a soap in the '60s. He was like this doctor.
He
on
was a
soap
really
in the 60s.
good asshole in that segment with Ted Danson.
And Day of the Animals. I mean, he went crazy and wrestled a bear. I mean that's Leslie Nielsen I knew up until he started doing comedy. I was like, oh, I didn't know he was funny. He was a good asshole, but I didn't know he was funny. But
Yeah.
it was great special effects. The Crate is one of my favorites. I love
Excellent
The Crate.
cast in that. You
That's
got
great.
Fritz Weaver. You got Hal Holbrook.
Holbrook, yeah.
Adrian
Tell her to call you
Barbeau.
Billy.
Adrian
Yeah.
Barbeau is such a great bitch in that one.
Yes, he's the greatest bitch ever in
Ever,
that.
yeah. I love when she makes that drink with milk and like she
Yeah.
does this like
Henry! Henry!
But he has that hallucination where he shoots her in the face.
Yeah.
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 Classic.
But,
Friday night fights, huh? Huh, Henry?
but let me ask you guys this. Wouldn't some of that nagging be worth it when you have your private moments with Adrian Barbeau?
Yeah.
Back then, yeah.
Let's
Back
make it
then,
right now.
yeah.
How much nagging would you put up with for those intimate moments with Adrian
Well, we'd have to
Barbeau?
ask John Carpenter whether it was worth it.
Oh, I think it would still. I think it would still end with me shooting her in the face. But, but we can at least
what do you
there could be
think?
some good moments before
What
that.
an
though.
image. Just,
Not in that way, folks. In the sperm in the face.
Oh, shots fired.
oh.
Scene.
Oh, goodness.
The old eye pirate there. Yeah.
Oh.
Face pirate.
Just don't see Creepshow 3 where you have a haunted hot dog.
I'm never gonna want to tell it. I'm
I'm
never
starting
gonna
to.
want
None of
to.
that.
Henry.
None of
Never
that.
I have a
things
voted-
work anyway.
It was
I
so
have a voted
bad you're
Creepshow
killing
for
me. God.
Again,
I
haunted
love
hot dog.
I sang a song about it. I really did. Creepshow 3 was so terrible that I made up a song. I'm just like, Creepshow 3,
You're fighting
Creepshow
songs.
3, you're so bad you're killing me.
It's true.
And
That
I was
is
looking
true.
forward to that because I was like, hey, another Creepshow.
Well, that was a bad call.
And then I was thinking about buying it on
Bad call.
DVD, and then I rented it from
Bad
Netflix,
call.
and I was like,
Bad call.
wow, this is
Yeah, bad call.
absolutely awful.
But the first
This is so
one's a good
terrible.
one.
The first
Yeah.
one. What's your
Classic.
favorite story in the first one? Because if I'm being honest with myself, mine has got to be Jordy Verrill. I just love that.
Jordy, you lunkhead.
Maybe you're shit.
And I know it's acted by Stephen King himself, and it's
Yeah.
great acting, but it's just
Yeah.
everything about that just I smile through the whole bit.
And it's also
just-
really tragic and
Yeah,
really
it is.
sad. at
It
the
is.
end.
It's
It's very
It's a
sad at the
tragedy.
end. I feel very bad for him.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like, not
true.
Jordy, no.
Gosh,
I just- I just love that
I
story.
really like the. I really like the.
I like the doctor guy in that segment. Yeah.
I really like the one with the cockroaches.
Oh, they're
Creepy
creeping
guy.
on you. E.G.
Creepy
Marshall
guy.
Yeah, I
played
really
a
like that.
great bastard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
really
the
like
guy's on vacation with his family in
creepy.
Disneyland, Disney World, or Disneyland at the time, and he's like, I don't care if you don't get back here and get this problem, you won't have a job to come.
I was at Disneyland in one of their shuttle buses, and I was sitting near a guy just like that. He was on the phone at Disneyland firing an employee.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Firing an employee over the phone.
At Disneyland.
I kid you not.
Unbelievable.
He made me think of that guy. He's on the phone. He's an old guy. He's got on shorts and typical old guy. He's got on shorts that are too high, black socks that are pulled all the way
So
up.
it's like Upton Pratt. Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome.
And he's sitting there, and he's just this old bastard, and he's just ripping into this dude, and he fires him, bam, literally, and then he's like, go talk to Bob about your severance.
Wow.
Bob Nature.
Oh.
That's right.
The happiest place on earth, right?
And later he was found with cockroaches to death.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My
Feel bad
least
for the guy that got fired, but you can't help but think he might be a little better off.
Yeah, going back to the Jordy Verrill segment, I really like the doctor guy in that, where he's just so overacting so much to the point where he's just touching his mustache and twisting it and doing all this craziness. And he's like, $200 for a broken medium?
I just love that whole segment. It's such a lighthearted.
Give you 10 cents.
Yeah, I don't know. I just that one always sticks up to me.
But I mean, what's great about it is every vignette is good. Every vignette is fun. You know what I mean?
I did not like the first one, the Father's Day. I mean, just has the dumbest death scene with Ed Harris.
Yeah.
Where he's just 50 minutes. This thing is falling on him. He's like, should I move? And I'm like, you dumb fuck, get up and move.
I don't
Go 2 feet. And then, I'm like, what the
Well,
fuck
I
is
guess you could say maybe that one is. I guess you could say maybe that one was the weakest of them, but I still like it.
I still like it because I like the actress who plays the what's her name of Vivica. Is that her name? Vivian or something? Linfors or Vivica Linfors?
The old woman.
Yeah, the older woman. Who's at the grave, and you called me a bitch.
It's Vivica Linfors.
Yeah, Vivica Linfors. Yeah, I liked her. This drunk. She's drinking at his grave. Things like that.
She was Swedish.
Yeah.
I don't know. I liked all of the sequences, but the crate is probably going to have to be my favorite of all of them. That's just the one that sticks out to me. I like them all, but that's my favorite.
That's my favorite too.
I absolutely love the monster.
Fluffy.
Yeah, love it.
He was the old woman in Stargate. Sorry.
The actor who was in the fluffy suit was the.
No, the.
Oh, the woman, the first
Vivica. Sorry. I was going on a little adventure there with Vivica.
I was like, yeah, the old woman in Stargate was in the fluffy suit.
That would be interesting.
That would be
cool.
a
That'd
great
be awesome.
DVD commentary.
That would be a great DVD.
I also like the segments before, with the kid, Stephen King's. I think it's Stephen King's son, isn't it?
Yeah, and Tom Atkins.
And Tom Atkins, who's like, I want you reading this horror crap.
Yeah. Credited as Joe King back then. Now, of course, he's Joe Hill for.
And
folks.
I'm used to Tom Atkins being a nice, cool guy, and when you see this, he doesn't have a mustache. And he's the biggest asshole.
It's not even worth watching with a mustache.
That's jarring.
The mustache is his power.
That's where his power comes from.
I think they take the power away. That's where the power comes from. It's the stash. The Atkins.
I think so. All the segments. So you had Father's Day. I think that's the first one, right? And then there was was it the one with Leslie Nielsen?
Yeah, Lonesome Jeff and Jordy Verrill.
Lonesome Jeff and Jordy Verrill was the second one.
Then Tide You Over.
Then the crate. Then they're
creeping up on you.
And that creeping up on you segment, even Tom Savini and George Romero were freaked out about the bugs. They were just absolutely about the bugs.
Roaches.
Those were hissing cockroaches imported from Guatemala.
I'm not afraid of them, but I definitely would not want to be covered in them.
Yeah.
That many of them?
If you're a fan of the film, if you have a region-free player, DVD player, Blu-ray player, I do recommend getting
the British set?
The second Blu-ray or
yeah,
British DVD.
Yeah.
because it's got just a making of documentary called Just Desserts. It's also got a really good commentary with Georgia Romero, and I think there's a few.
Tom
was it
Savini is on it.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
very
he's on it.
informative, fun commentary, and it's one of those things where it sucks. It's like, why isn't this available in the
Why do they
US?
still have
I
this
don't
crappy?
understand.
The Snapper DVD is still the only
Bare
one to get,
bones.
isn't it?
Yeah,
We've got the bare
Region
bones
bullshit.
flipper case one.
Yeah.
We've got the bare
yeah.
bones flipper case.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, you can do this. Flip.
Well, I mean,
Snap.
that DVD is just
That's
about as
satisfying.
good as this. Really, that DVD is just about as good as this. I mean, to be honest, it's a laser disc. I mean,
Oh wow.
That's pretty cool.
it's like,
I don't know why Warner Brothers or whatever. I guess just hates Creep Show or something. They
I don't
give a
understand
fuck.
because it is like we said it earlier. It is the quintessential horror anthology.
there's even a Creep Show comic book.
Yep.
So,
What were you gonna say, Pizzo?
Michael Felsher he started some kind of Kickstarter or Indiegogo where he was trying to
I saw that.
raise money.
Just
Yeah,
Desserts.
what was that about, Mike?
I didn't
He
know about
Was
that.
he wants to get the Just Desserts documentary released in the United States and with like some extra stuff. I think this is what he
Okay.
wants to do.
The
that would be
last time I saw it, the last time I checked, he had not reached
I've never even heard
the
of it.
amount to do.
Yeah, he's only like halfway there. I'm just looking at it now.
Okay.
First
So if you
time I've
guys are
heard of it.
interested in getting Just Desserts released in the States as a documentary with some added extra stuff, go over to Michael Felsher's Facebook page,
Yeah.
and I'm sure
Actually,
you can,
unfortunately,
I'm
I
sure you can
think
find it.
the Indiegogo is dead.
Oh.
It
Oh,
says here he
Oh,
got
it's-
about halfway and there's no time left. He needed 10 grand.
What was the
um,
time frame? Does it say? Because I've
it's-
never heard of this.
2 months, I think it says. I'm trying to bring up his Twitter here, Redshirt.
Sounds like there just wasn't that much advertising or like
Yeah, that's
I
the
don't
last
know.
thing he
these
tweeted was in
websites or
July.
anything.
How did you
Makes me
guys
feel
hear
bad.
about
I had
this?
no
'Cause
idea.
I don't remember any movie.
I heard
sites.
about it, I believe, on a Facebook post on a group I'm in on Facebook.
September 12th it ended. I feel bad. That's the last thing he tweeted. I had no
Oh,
idea.
so-
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Go to Michael Felsher's Facebook page, people. Tell him that the Sausage Factory sent you, and that if he will start the Indiegogo again, that the Sausage Factory will guarantee that he makes his goal. If not, Orc will pay the entire amount out of his own pocket. Go.
I get that shit.
Right now.
Boy, you're
He'll
gonna
take
have to work
back all
the
those
streets for a long
zero
time before
cans.
that kind of bill works.
So
Orc, it's time to get your guap up.
see,
Get your guap
fucking,
up, Orc.
fucking Dread
Incoming
Central.
death threats
They're
in
too,
5.
they're too worried talking about Eli Roth instead of this.
Yeah, there you go. There's what's right.
Yeah.
I had no idea that even happened.
Yeah.
Same here. I'm pretty
That
active on
puts a
Facebook and
damper
Twitter.
on the whole Creep Show discussion. Is you're like, oh,
Well, I'm surprised. I don't think I was aware that there was like a set time limit. I mean, 2 months doesn't sound like a lot of time, really.
No.
I mean-
Same here. I'm pretty active on Twitter and Facebook, and then I saw his. I never heard of it, and then I heard when he didn't reach his goal, he posted it on Facebook and Twitter, and I was like, oh, okay.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he can give it another go. If you're watching out there, tweet at him, go to his Facebook page, and try to encourage him to give it another go, and maybe we
And go
can
buy
help,
his other
push
stuff
him.
because he
Yeah.
has like probably the best like extras and
Yeah.
what
like,
are his other stuff?
Tons of
Just
stuff.
about every
Tons.
Scream Factory release.
Oh, you mean like
sometimes
baseball?
red shirts.
Every-
red shirt
Yeah.
pictures.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
Basically every Scream Factory release.
cool.
He did my favorite thing he ever did was the Monster Squad.
I was gonna say Monster
Yeah.
Squad.
I
Yeah,
mean that was that was
dream come
that
true.
was
for me.
so. Yeah, that was I was so impressed with that DVD. I actually, it was the DVD is what I bought first, but watching that documentary at the end, I mean, I just about shed a tear. It was so good. It was
Yeah,
so
it
many
was a
years
great
in the
documentary.
comic.
It really was.
Yeah.
He did just throw some other stuff out there. So he did Night of the Demons, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, one of the releases of that, Maniac Cop, TCM2, The Burning, Hellraiser,
Cool.
Pumpkinhead, which I still never got to see because they didn't release it, I don't think, in
I
Canada.
haven't gotten that Blu-ray yet.
Yeah, it kills me. I still haven't. Savage Street was sold out like twice, I think.
I have that set. I have the first DVD from my.
Night of the Creeps.
Yeah.
Yeah. See that first release is like a really hard to get. The Gate. He just did awesome movies. Just look at all these movies. This is incredible. So.
Nice.
I got
The
a
Gate was a
photo.
good DVD, but the cover art sucked.
Cover art sucks, yeah.
Yeah.
Which he doesn't have any control over that.
Is
No,
But
that's Lionsgate.
well, even recently he did the Shocker. Those are some good features.
Yeah.
And People on the Stairs.
So going back to Creep Show, like, what makes your favorite segment your favorite? Like, for me, the Crate, it's probably because of the actors in there. I really like the characters in it, and has some good gore, of course. Fluffy biting people and stuff like that. And I just think it has a good pacing, good characters. It's entertaining, and yeah, I really like that segment. That's mainly it's really good characters that I like seeing again and again, which makes me come back to that segment.
Hal Holbrook did a really great job in that.
Yeah.
That story. He's probably what did it for me. I mean, the creature effects are awesome. The gore is good.
Yeah.
The characters, there's some humor in there. The fantasy with him shooting her in the face, and
Yeah.
I mean, and Adrian Barbeau plays a great bitch. So yeah, it's the characters, but Hal Holbrook, man, I think he's what really sells it for me. He does a great
Exactly.
job.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the Geordie one. We talked about it at length. I mean,
Yeah.
I love Stephen King as he's just awesome, and that's just it's so funny and lighthearted right up to the very end when he kills himself, and just like, oh, so sad. You know?
Yeah.
That's what I like about it too. It's just really earnest. Like he's just such this like likable guy, and you want to root for him and all that stuff. And it is, I think Mike mentioned too something about the colors. It's really saturated with color.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole movie it's based off the EC comics, and that was one of the ways they could make things pop was bright colors and things like that. So it's really saturated with green and stuff like that. It just stands out as a really I know, like I said before, it's not the best acted because it's Stephen King, but it always jumps out as me as my favorite segment.
It looks like a comic book come to life.
Whenever I talk about George Romero, he's always going to be the zombie guy. But I point out films like Creepshow, like The Dark Half, even like Knight Rider and The Crazies, and I go, no, he's a good filmmaker. Yeah, he's a good filmmaker. Period. Yeah, he's the zombie guy. I mean, he created the modern day zombie, which I mean is, worthy of icon status alone. But I mean, he was a good filmmaker.
Was a good filmmaker.
And he did Bruiser. See the silence, folks.
Well,
wasn't that a Walmart
Styles
exclusive?
for Bruiser.
I think that was a Walmart exclusive. I think Bruiser.
Well, they got ripped
The
off.
DVD.
Walmart got ripped off.
Any closing thoughts on Creepshow?
Definitely one of the best adaptations, I think, and like somebody said earlier, it's probably one of my favorite anthology films.
Yeah.
One of the best. Definitely awesome.
Big fan of it. It's a lot of fun. Most fun you'll ever have being scared. If you're a big fan of Tales from the Crypt, I recommend. If you haven't seen Creepshow yet, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's creepy. It's got great atmosphere, good effects. It's got some humor in it. I mean, it's like the perfect.
It's entertaining.
Film. Yeah,
That's a big thing.
Now, part 3 I haven't seen. I've avoided it because I heard nothing but bad things. But
Don't.
Part
Do
2 is
not
pretty
see
good. It's
that.
got a couple of,
Sure.
it's got a couple of good sequences in it, but it's not as good as the first one. The first one's just awesome.
Final words, check out Creepshow 3. It's worth it.
Only if you hate yourself.
Let's see what's going on out in Sausage Factory Nation. We got a couple of comments came in through the website. Will Barber says, Pet Sematary, Misery, Cujo, Silver Bullet, and The Shining are my horror adaptation faves of Stephen King. The Shawshank Redemption is perhaps the best adaptation of a Stephen King work, although it's not in the horror genre.
Great movie.
That's a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely spend some time talking about it soon. Jeff Penny says Stephen King movies are literally what got me into horror. So many to choose from, I don't even know where to start. Just about every King movie that came out between 1980 and 1993 would be in my top 20 list. Hard for me to pick a top 5, but I'll say Creepshow, Silver Bullet, Christine, Misery, and The Dead Zone. He says, awesome topic. See you Thursday night. Let's see what we got going on in the comment section out on the YouTube channel. DJ Donley says, did you guys know that the hotel that they filmed The Shining in is actually haunted? Did not know that.
Yeah, there's some ghosts coming there. Supposedly.
Oh goodness, we've got somebody who liked Room 237. Movie Man 95 says, I liked Room 237 during the first theory. After that, it got repetitive and boring and really effing stupid for the part where the theorist, I'll call him Dr. Giggles, checks on his kid and he's crying.
Oh my.
And the crying is left in the documentary.
Yeah.
There was
yeah. I need to check to see if my kid's crying or not.
They'll do a remake. I'll cast him.
Several people have welcomed OCP to the fold. Hillick666 says, "Rock on, guys! Nice to see OCP here. But where is Stingray? Stingray
I was just gonna say he's a big improvement over Jay.
Oh. Jay is on vacation or something like that.
He is on vacation. John Avenger says, welcome to the Sausage Factory OCP Communications. Jason Lyon is out there watching. How's it going, Jason? Jason McNeil says, finally got around to watching It Follows. Even better than I expected.
Good. One of my favorite films of the year. I was able to see it in the theater.
Me too. I saw it in the theater. Good time.
DJ Donley also says, great to see you on the Sausage Factory OCP. So OCP, you're getting some love out there.
That's good.
See what's going on via Twitter.
Take
it. Joseph Perdue tweets at us. He says, Cujo is the reason I will never get an effing St. Bernard. And no, Eli Roth will never hold a candle to Wes Craven.
I won't get a St. Bernard because of Beethoven.
Yeah, it'll destroy your house and get you involved in all sorts of hijinks.
And think of the size of the pooper scooper you'd need. Jeez.
Although it'd be cool to have
stuck in like
what's the
so
name?
many
Richard
sequels.
Grodin come over.
And then a Judge Reinhold would show up. And then...
If you guys have questions or comments for us, or if you want to share your own favorite Stephen King adaptations, please do so in the comment section of the video. Tweet at us, come over to the website, join us in the live chat over there. Yeah, so let's go ahead and let's keep this party going. We're going to skip over some of the short films that were made based on Stephen King stuff. So we'll move over
in the room or something. Or
yes.
Yeah.
The Night Shift collection.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are terrible.
Let's talk about Cujo. And I was actually talking about Cujo before we went live. It was one of the Stephen King adaptations that I wanted to go back and rewatch because it'd been a while since I'd seen it. I just didn't get time. But when I first saw that movie as a kid, it freaked me out. I mean, the movie pretty much takes place almost entirely in a freaking car. But there was such an air of desperation and dread in that film that as a kid, I mean, that just really freaked me out. And of course, the dog just looking awful just really freaked me out. Like, I really felt scared for little Danny Pintaro or whatever his name is. Like, really freaked out about that. But what do you guys think about Cujo?
Ford Pinto too. So it's Danny Pintaro and in a Pinto. I could be wrong. I for some reason I remember them like I remember reading stuff where they were also in a Pinto. I could be completely wrong.
Possibly.
I like the movie.
It is a Ford Pinto.
Ah.
Yeah.
The great thing about the Ford Pinto is not only was it this shitty little car, like the worst car they could be in for the situation, but in real life, the Ford Pinto, had a history of blowing up. There were all sorts of cases of people's Ford Pintos like suddenly catching fire and exploding.
Well, that was an alternate ending. The dog hit it and it just blew up.
It was a defect in the gas tank design. If you took a hit in the ass, your car would explode. But
so
it would be a fender bender would be lethal
That's the remake by Michael Bay. Just
Lead sweeper.
It's like one of the least popular cars of all time. It's like neck and neck with like the Gremlin for being like a terrible little car.
I should
Well, the
bet.
name sucked too.
Something.
The Pinto. It's
Remember the
named
Gremlin?
after one of the like the worst beans ever. Like who wants to eat pinto beans anyway? And the Gremlin. Like
well,
that's-
it makes sense. Shitty bean, shitty car.
I mean,
It's a
yeah,
car.
they're right about naming it the Gremlin. It's small and ugly. You know.
That's nothing but trouble.
Rambo, what were you going to say about Cujo? Go ahead.
No, I was just saying it was a good follow-up for Louis Teague after Alligator, which I think is how he got the job.
Yeah.
Stephen King liked Alligator. And I thought he was very capable direction of the usage of the dog. I don't think it looks as phony as other movies did. I thought Dee Wallace did a good job acting, because it's hard when you're acting. It's just in a car for most of it.
Yeah.
And how do you make that not boring?
And she had to
when you're just in
carry
a
that.
car.
So that's,
Yeah.
you know. That's
And I
how
like
she
that they changed the ending of the book too, because in the book I think the kid died.
And isn't it with a bat too? In the movie, it's a gun, right? They take out the
Yeah,
dog with.
Comes to the
In
window.
the book, it's a baseball bat. Not nearly as
So,
It would have been interesting if she's like beating the fuck out of it, like.
yeah.
That would be, yeah, that would be.
It would be
I think,
interesting.
yeah, and Stephen King's admitted too. I mean, you know that he doesn't remember writing much of Cujo because that was during his alcohol and cocaine phase, and I'm sure the drugs and the alcohol probably had something to do with him just being like, "Screw it, kill the kid." He said that's one ending that he regrets writing. He said he wishes he could go back and let the kid live.
I think what makes the film work so great is that it feels so real. It's like everyone, you know, can relate to, you know, and even if they don't have a dog or even they don't have a pet. I mean, you could just imagine that concept. It's just a friendly dog gets exposed to rabies, and then it's just no longer that man's best friend. It's
Super real.
completely crazy, and now it's gonna go after you. And
Yep.
this
And it
is
was
something
done
that
well,
showed
too.
so much affection to you in the past, and you had such a good connection with it. So there's already that suspense, and you already feel for the dog. But then you're like, wait a second, you know, it's going after me now, and I'm gonna have to put my dog down by force.
It's not like fucking Strays.
Oh God.
They're the bus,
Oh.
like that's how
Well,
you
you know, you-
poorly.
With
You know, you hit on
cats.
something there.
House cats.
You definitely hit on something there with the realism of the film, because I mean, you know, you're not who's afraid, you know, vampires aren't going to attack and
Not
kill you.
really.
You know, The Shining, you know, the haunted, you know, the haunted hotel's not going to get you. But you know, a dog that's been infected with rabies can really freaking kill your ass. You know, I mean, we see that all the time in the news. You know, dogs are attacking people all the time. So I mean, King really tapped in on that. And some people just are afraid of dogs, period. I had a friend of mine, when I was growing up, if he saw a dog coming, he was running as fast as he could the other way. He was that scared of dogs. So it's a legitimate fear, and it's something that could happen.
I used to be afraid of dogs. I think part of it mainly was because I didn't have good experiences with dogs. I remember when I was living in Oklahoma with my dad, and I was just walking home from work, and two dogs just absolutely just dug underneath the fence, because I guess the fence sucks, so the dogs would just dig underneath it, and just started chasing after my ass. And then bit me in the back of my ankle, and they're like, "Don't run!" And I'm like, I never knew that at the time. I just have two dogs chasing after me, and I'm just like, get the fuck out of here. So I'm just hightailing it.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
I got
I had a
one
very
age. Wasn't that hurt that bad, but it's just I've had better
I had a
experiences
very-
lately with dogs.
I had a very similar experience as a kid too, and it was one of the first instances in my life where I felt like my life was in danger.
Yeah.
I was like a little kid. I was cutting through this yard. I don't even know where I was going, and just boom, here's these dogs running after me, barking, snarling, and I mean literally, I yelled, "Help me!" I thought they were going to kill me. So that was the first time in my life where I was like,
What
oh my
kind of
God,
dogs were they? Were they like little dogs at the time? Like
no, they must have been. I don't remember, but they had to be big. They had to be big, and it was multiple dogs. Multiple dogs.
And that helps too that it's a Saint Bernard. It's not like that movie Dogs from the 70s where you got like really fluffy cute dogs and other dogs that you're just like a fucking Cocker Spaniel. I'm sorry, just no.
Yeah, Cujo could have been a Chihuahua. Cujo could have been a Chihuahua.
I've known people who have named their Chihuahuas Cujo before, so.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that happens an awful lot these days.
I was kind of happy that they went with the Saint Bernard because Doberman Pinschers at the time were the bad dog.
Yeah.
And it would have been too easy to go with the Doberman because people are afraid of them just by looking at them.
I'm not afraid of a Doberman anymore because of Dracula's dog. Dracula's dog was a Doberman, I think.
Yeah.
Well, and Saint Bernards are supposed to be, friendly. They're the dogs that have the little beer kegs under their neck.
They rescue
Skiers.
dog. They rescue skiers in the mountains.
Yeah, they're
I remember reading that's a myth.
No, it's not a myth.
Interesting. Like I just remember reading somewhere where some guys like, that's not true. They never did that.
Yeah. No, they have extremely amazing tracking abilities, so they can track people like even in like
all kinds of those type of guys around here.
That was the guy from room 237 who told you that, Mike. But I mean, you guys hit on an interesting.
I don't know if
thing,
they had a little keg of brandy. Like I think maybe that might got added, but they were our rescue dogs. They still rescue dogs.
Of all the pets that we can
in Austria.
have, dogs are the most common, but they're also the ones that could be the most dangerous. I mean,
a cat, yeah, no.
Like it's something that you see anywhere you go. The dog, but
well,
at the same
Stephen
time,
King tackles cats. Stephen King tackles cats. So there you go.
See, cats are at a disadvantage because they're smaller. I mean, if you take on their larger cousins, like a Bengal tiger, yeah, good luck with that.
Well, that's strays right there.
I guess if they were like ninjas, little ninjas that come in and slit your
cats
throat
fight
and
with their whole
sleep.
body, though. They're mean little sons of bitches. Dogs are kind of stupid and only attack with their face. So you got a little bit more of a chance.
Well, I mean, I did have a cat. Yeah. My dad had a cat that was like huge. He was like a big ass thick cat, and like he was mean as a motherfucker. He was just like, you pat him, he would like trick you to pet him, and then he'd just whip out the claws, just like chink, and then just like scratch your ass. And
they try to sneak in and suffocate you.
We had a cat that would chase dogs.
like the cat from hell, yeah.
It was funny.
That's in the dark side of the movie. But really, he was so big that you could throw him at a burglar. It could be a weapon. It's a cat bomb. Just pick him up and just throw his ass. Fucking, the guy will have no face afterwards. It'll just be completely clawed and chewed off.
Any other thoughts or memories on Cujo? Do you guys remember? Were you guys freaked out by it if you watched it as a kid, or?
I know Orc said he had a story.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Orc.
A bad name, but my story is about two pit bulls that a cop who lived near me had, and so I'm just walking, I got some like Dairy Queen in my hand, just walking around. Two dogs come running out of his yard. One circles around me. I'm like holding like a blizzard or something. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna fucking die. It's barking at me, jumping up and down, doing everything but bite me. And then my friend is climbing a tree. You climb with, in the position you climb up like like a rope or something. He's climbing a tree that way. The dog is biting his sneaker off. He's like, God help me, Jesus Christ! No, he's like up at the top of the tree too. And then the cop comes out and he's like, oh yeah, just come back here. And we're like, holy shit. I got in, I was like, oh my fucking God, I couldn't stop shaking. I couldn't stop shaking for like 30 minutes.
Did you drop
It's a good thing that dog wasn't the dog from Man's Best Friend, because the dog from Man's Best Friend could climb up that tree and then eat him.
But I have that picture, a kid who's like 11 holding onto a tree, and then a dog just taking away the sneaker. Like, no!
At least you didn't drop the blizzard, though.
What were those like?
The whole thing you held on
those
to
like
that
expensive
blizzard,
sneakers. It's like, no, not my brand new Air Jordans, please, dog, leave me alone.
Or no, he's like, here, take my Jordans. He's like, take my Jordans, leave my cookies and cream blizzard alone.
And later that dog became Air Bud.
Oh, full circle.
Full circle. It's
All right, well, I gotta tap out, guys. I was waiting for that story, so have a good night.
have a
All
good
right.
night.
See you, buddy.
Talk to you guys later. Peace.
So, yeah.
Take it easy, man. Take it easy. Now let's move on, and let's discuss The Dead Zone. One of my personal favorite Stephen King adaptations. What do you guys think of The Dead Zone?
It's a good one. David Cronenberg is a great choice for director. I think this is the only Stephen King film he's done, I think.
Yeah.
And Christopher Walken was a very inspired casting choice. I love the way it's shot, the way it looks. Martin Sheen plays a good politician. Pulls it off really well. Shows how politicians, for the most part, are not to be trusted. Yeah, I haven't seen the film in a long time, but I always remember liking the movie. It was one of the more serious sort of takes on a Stephen King story than the other ones before. It was less, for example, Cujo was another one. So this is like a continuation of something like that with a little bit of a supernatural element, but with the whole psychic stuff. And I just like the concept of just seeing these things and knowing about it and then not really knowing what to do about it and people thinking you're crazy because, I mean, they would. Like, if you know all this stuff and you're predicting these things, like, and they're talking about this huge, big politician guy who's this really big guy, I mean, people would probably look at you like you're nuts. So, yeah, you felt for Christopher Walken. It was a tragic character, and it's a good story, and it's a good film.
I remember the scissor scene, which he came up with the suicide. Like that's that's a Cronenberg choice.
I also remember that there was something with a lake. I think with there's like the ice. I think over the lake or something like that. Or maybe I'm
like
getting
the
it.
kid fell
Fall
in.
through the ice.
Yeah.
Fall through the ice.
I think what's funny is, like, at this point, that was sort of David Cronenberg's first kind of, like, straight movie. I mean, kind of body horror kind of movie. Yet then you get to that suicide, and you're like, oh yeah, this is David Cronenberg.
Yeah.
But one of the things I love about it, I love Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
And I mean, the character is John Smith. He is just the every man, any man kind of character. Yet they cast Christopher Walken as it.
Exactly.
And he is so freaking good. Like what I see Christopher Walken doing today is almost sad compared to how talented the guy is.
It's like he is such a better actor than that. I mean, he's in that. What was that movie, Envy? That was so embarrassing seeing him in that.
Now he's doing what a lot of these older actors are doing. He's doing a parody of
himself.
He thinks this is what you want to see.
Perfect words, yeah.
Same thing that Robert De Niro does.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Al Pacino.
And he's so good. He's such a talented actor. And he's known now as, like, this comedy guy or whatever.
The SNL,
that, he was sort of
skit guy, yeah.
Exactly.
The Continental and things like that.
I mean, I like
before that he was like
in that video, but it's kind of sad people know him for that.
They know him for the cowbell guy, whatever.
Yeah.
I like
and then before then, people knew him as the heavy. He was the bad guy. He was the tough guy in every movie. But I mean, I think when you look at like The Deer Hunter or Dead Zone, those are really his best performances. And I mean, Communion's I mean, he's a great actor. He's been typecast like twice in his career and forced to kind of do just stuff that's beneath him, really.
I liked him in Batman Returns as well as Shrek. Thought he was good in that.
I love him in Batman Returns. My favorite role of his is The Prophecy. Where he's
God, I love The Prophecy.
That's my favorite.
He's good in that too.
That's a good one.
That's crazy how many sequels that movie has. The Prophecy.
None are good.
I was talking to Cole the other day. I was like, all right, so there's like 10 of these on Netflix. Which one should I watch? He's like, watch the first. Don't even try to watch the others.
And you think maybe the second one won't be that bad because at least Christopher Walken's in that one, but my lord, it's bad. The third
I remember
one
the
might actually be better
trailer.
than the second one.
I was like, trailer looked interesting, but I still haven't seen the sequels yet. So
The second one, like, it's just so cheap and shitty.
You're not
But,
missing anything, dude.
I forget all
Alright.
about Dead Zone, but I agree
Yeah.
that, like, Walken's what sells the movie. He's like the main.
and Cronenberg.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Cronenberg.
It was
for sure.
a good match.
Like you, yeah. Go ahead.
A great film. It's a dark, bleak, depressing film. So it's a challenging watch. It's not something. It's a feel good movie. You know, it's like you got to be in the mood to watch it. But it's excellent.
Yeah.
But it's challenging.
Yeah.
I like that. Isn't that the film with the scene where he wakes up and he's having the vision like everything's on fire?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The special
I think that was a really well done sequence.
Yeah.
It was real fire too.
I don't think.
I mean,
Yeah, it doesn't seem like many people really talk about the Dead Zone, which is unfortunate because I think it's
They don't talk
a
about the
really
book either.
great
The
movie.
book's quite overlooked of the Stephen King book too. Like, same thing.
Maybe because it's so bleak.
Yeah, maybe.
People aren't drawn to it. I mean,
I think so, because it's maybe, the 80s is when he was writing some more of the more exciting type stuff, I think, that had stuff like...
This is
there's
like
no
more
humor
of a
in it.
thriller.
Stephen King normally has humor in his stuff.
yeah. This is more of a thriller.
I mean, like, Firestarter
Serious
comes after this.
thriller.
Firestarter's sort of like a chase book, with, stuff always happening, and this is more of a slow thing, so maybe that's why, for the book and the movie,
And
it's a little more slow, and...
I like the TV show as well. At least the first
I like the
season.
TV show as well with Anthony Michael Hall.
But the book, I mean, yeah, you guys
Completely
see clearly
Americanized
Christopher Walken. It's just really good performance. It shows his acting chops, and I wish people would give him a decent script.
Yeah.
Something like that again.
Don't give him the roles that Gary Busey should be taking. The roles that
Yeah, we still have Gary Busey. Like,
are worthy of his talent.
It's like we need Gary Busey for this role. We just don't want to put up with his crazy ass. What's Walker doing? Get Walk in here.
It's very good.
So, yeah, I've always really liked it. And even though the fact that it is dark and kind of depressing, it's sad, but in a kind of, I don't know, hopeful way. Like the ending of it doesn't necessarily depress me.
Because he did it for the right reason. He did it for
He did it for the right reason.
a good cause. He was a hero, even though no one will look at him that way, because they'll view him as an assassin. But we, as the viewer, know the truth, and it's that sort of, even those old school movies where it's a tragic story, but it's for, he
I
did
don't
it for
really
a
find
good
it to be
reason.
overtly depressing. It's just kind of bleak and dark.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah.
But in a good way. It's not overdone.
Yeah.
I have no
Well,
problem.
you have to balance out horror with things like that. You can't just have nothing but light, fluffy horror films.
Right.
You also have to have those dark and a little bit more bleak horror, and also in combinations of both. So.
Because sometimes in some adaptations of King's work that we'll get into later, the goofiness is too much.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
It's entertaining in a different way, but it's not good. It's not good. Yeah, like the Dead Zone is a drama. It's
Right.
It's a thriller. Not really.
It's a drama thriller.
Yeah, it's more of a
Exactly.
thriller drama, not a horror or a horror comedy, like some of King's stuff is.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, let's move on and let's discuss Christine.
Ha ha.
What do you guys
Christine.
What do you guys think about Christine?
John Carpenter, Stephen King. This was, I love this movie.
And this
The
was
soundtrack.
and this. Yeah, and this was a movie that John Carpenter really did not want to make. He admits his heart was not in this movie,
Yeah.
but it still turned out pretty freaking good, I think.
Well, this was
His
the one
heart
he
wasn't
made.
in the film because his career was at a serious crossroads before he did this movie. After John Carpenter's The Thing, a film that he had so much passion for, and it's a great movie, and it just was a financial flop. Critics hated it, and they even went as far to call him the pornographer of violence, and it was just over the top. And
he got fired from Firestarter.
He was
He
fired from one of his other projects that he was working on, and You know, it was one of those where, all right, maybe I'll take this Christine project to prove these people wrong, to show them that, you know, damn it, I'm John fucking Carpenter,
But
and
just to have a job, so I'm working.
just to have a job, exactly.
To be ostracized.
But he did it. He took the job. His heart wasn't this, might not have been in it, but it didn't look like it. It definitely feels like a Carpenter film.
Yeah.
I got a personal connection with it because I remember people, friends of mine, like they say I look like Keith Gordon, so you know, so I'm all, you know, I have a sort of connection with that. So Keith Gordon did a great job. Alexandra Paul is hot, she's gorgeous, and the car itself is really cool. The Plymouth Fury, it's its own character, really. The film did a great job bringing the car to life.
Well, me and you and others have a little personal joke where we want you to say shitters.
Bunch of shitters.
A little personal joke, yeah.
They're all shitters.
Christine.
But
there's only
Gordon at first because he was bullied, and then. But one thing I have to admit, what's that actor's name? The friend.
John Stockwell.
Not Dean Stockwell.
Oh, John Stockwell.
John Stockwell.
Yeah, it's John Stockwell.
Funny, horrendous. It's like a block of wood walker.
He is a bad actor, I have to admit.
He was bad in My Science Project, and he's a shitty director, and he was shitty. John Stockwell is he's a block of wood walking, and somehow talks.
I like I love the use of the soundtrack. I love the I think it's Bad to the Bone.
Yeah.
Really good use of that.
Oh, yeah.
I also really like the use of the soundtrack, you know, the oldies music that Christine plays, like when it locks the door, and it's like, I forgot what the name of that song was.
You keep on knocking, but you can't come in.
Yeah, you keep on knocking, but
Yeah.
you can't come in. I just thought that was really nice.
And when there's moments between her and Keith Gordon, she plays the ballads and the love music from the 50s. And
Yeah, it was a nice combination of 50s throwback sort of nostalgia mixed with, you know, the 80s at the time, and great cinematography as usual, and great direction by Carpenter, and a great score.
And even the effects of how when a car's damaged, just the shots of it.
Really effective. Nowadays, they'd just be CG, and then.
Yeah.
You know.
But yeah, it was kind of simple, but yet effective.
Yeah.
The old guy who played Darnell was awesome.
Yeah.
Even the death scenes were simple but effective. They weren't like over the top. They were, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cole, have you read the book?
Hmm?
Have you read the book, Christine?
No, I haven't read the book, Christine.
Okay.
I did hear that there was a ghost in it. That was much more apparent in the
I haven't
book.
actually seen the movie either. I've seen like bits and pieces of it.
Okay.
So I actually haven't seen it. The main thing I remember when I think of Christine is this weird episode of Futurama where they're doing like a parody of The Wizard of Oz, and Fry is the Scarecrow, and and he's trying to scare off the crows, and they're all laughing at him, and he's trying to scare them by reading the book Christine to them out loud. So that's he's just like, honk, honk, the car honked its horn by itself. I've never gotten around to seeing it. It's one that, I don't know.
It's the best killer car movie I can think of.
Yes.
The car's a good one.
Is it as good as when it's obviously ripping off the short-lived, I think it was a 60s show called My Mother the Car, which was that was a real thing. It was about like
well, there was a movie called The Car that came out in
his mother dies, and then like her spirit like takes over their car, and it's like a sitcom.
Yeah.
Like, this was the age of the Flying Nun, so you know.
Yeah.
Everything went. Or the car.
The same Mr. Ed, but it's the car.
I was gonna say, well, I don't know how it is in modern times, so I don't pay attention. But there was a time in a young man's development when getting your driver's license and having a car was like your introduction to manhood. It was like freedom.
Yeah.
So I think Christine kind of builds on that. There's this nerdy kid that's picked on, and you know Stockwell, he's good for the dumbass jock best friend. I mean, perfect, because dumbass jock best friends act like that. So he's just lucky to have it. But then he gets his car, and then he changes, and he becomes more confident. But of course, you know, with the supernatural elements, he becomes evil. and eventually, takes it too far. But
that's what makes it interesting. The fact that he's confident. Yeah.
It kind of, I don't know, just I think that's where it hits most guys. Is it hits that nerve where you wanted the car when you were a kid, and this great soundtrack, great special effects. John Carpenter's score is awesome. What's the Buddy Ripperton? That guy was hilarious, man. The bully that stabs his yogurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many great scenes in that. What was the fat kid that got ran over? Moochie or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely do. I definitely do agree with the whole idea that it's a coming of age sort of thing. I like the whole concept of. What makes it interesting is that it's a positive where he's becoming more confident in himself, but then it's also a little bit of a negative because it goes too far and he ends up dying. So that's really.
I gotta say, with the main character and his transformation throughout the movie, it's a lot kind of like any addiction, where it starts off not so bad at first, but then at the end you're a clusterfuck and something really bad happens. And that's true with a lot of stuff in life, with addictions anyway. So. Yeah.
And then his friends are trying to get him out of it and trying to save him from this addiction to this car, and it's just one of those tragic stories.
And if you look at it from the evil supernatural point of view, this kid was open to be influenced. I mean, he was the perfect victim.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The film does a good job also making you feel for the car at first. Because you're like, oh no, like when they all break the car, and then it's kind of like that scene in Lock Up where the car gets busted up in Lock Up.
The car, even though the car's evil, it only kills the shitters. And let's face it, the shitters really aren't missed because they're usually the assholes.
Exactly.
So it's hard, even though the car is evil, it does good.
Yeah. Wipes the trash off the streets. I'd watch a show. I'd watch a show based on Christine where it's like a vigilante show where guy has a supernatural car and just uses it to fucking take out criminals and shit. And drug dealers. I'd totally watch that show.
You could read Ghost Rider. That's with her motorbike.
Yeah.
My father.
Watch the movies though.
Danny Ketch.
Ooh, yeah, I'm a fan of the Danny Ketch version myself.
Any closing thoughts on Christine? I've always been a big fan of the movie.
I'll watch it eventually.
I like it a lot.
Classic.
Yeah, you need to watch it, Cole. Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
It's a good ride.
Well, let's.
Oh, see what you did there. Hey, okay, I'm done.
Orc loves wordplay.
Well, let's move on and let's talk about a film inspired by Orc's childhood, Children of the Corn.
Hey, doesn't Matt live in Iowa? Right?
Yeah, we have a bunch of corn.
Yeah.
Louisiana will look just like that one. Yeah.
Wasn't it in Nebraska though?
Yeah, the film takes place in Nebraska. But it all looks the same, man. Ohio, Indiana.
Hey, I've been to
Sorry.
Nebraska. I've been to Nebraska multiple times.
Iowa, Nebraska, same difference.
I've been to Nebraska multiple times. There is a shit ton of corn over there. That's why they're called the Nebraska Corn Huskers, because they're all crazy about the corn.
What? Yeah.
This is true.
Corn as high as an elephant.
Husking corn and husking asses. It's just corn and
corn and a bunch of cornholing. Corn.
It's a bunch of corn in Rambo Raff's house in the middle of the maze.
Oh yeah, it's my job.
I'm not a fan of this movie. I'm gonna say it right out front. I'm not a fan of Children of the Corn. I really haven't been. There's some of the sequels I like more, like the third film, for instance. The first movie, I think I like some of the performances. Like that kid who I think the Malachi or the kid who plays the leader. I like him. He's a very eerie, creepy ass kid. Lena Hamilton does all right. Peter Horton I can do without, really. He's just there. And Fritz Kurst, I just thought it wasn't really, if you had someone like Carpenter or someone that was like an auteur or something, it might have been more impressive. Plus, then you get to the ending where you see He Who Walks Behind the Rose, and it's a really shitty-looking effect, in my opinion.
Yes,
so,
Trevor Groundhog, and then
and then really bad optical effects. It just kind of ruins the whole sort of thing. But I've seen worse Stephen King films, but I don't know why this is the film that inspired like 10 fucking movies. I really don't.
That series goes downhill fast.
Well, it wasn't even up to go downhill.
It didn't
I
have Fort
thought
Laval.
the first three were pretty good though. I don't know.
I actually enjoyed the first movie.
The one called
growing
Kenneth
up,
is like the worst thing I've ever seen.
growing up in the middle of cornfields, I felt like it could have taken place down the road for me. You know, it has I don't know cultish themes from the '70s, like Race with the Devil, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You never know what you're going to run into out in the middle of nowhere. But it turns it on its head. It's a bunch of kids that are religious fanatics that kill the adults, and I don't know. I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't great. I agree. The effects were terrible. The acting was passable. Malachi kid, Courtney Gaines, he was the best thing about the movie.
Yeah.
Kill the Outlanders! You know, I just watched it last night. It's a hoot.
Carrot
Man. It's
Top.
not great. It doesn't suck, but it's got decent atmosphere. And I like
That's what he reminds me. He reminds me of Carrot Top. Like if Carrot Top was a kid, evil Carrot Top.
But he was in a movie called Hard Bodies, which was a comedy.
I like the kid that played Isaac.
Which was
Yeah, that's what I was talking
talking
about. Isaac. Yeah, Isaac is a very creepy looking kid. The creepy looking kid since the kid who played the Damien in the original Omen, not the remake.
Well, Malachi was also in the Burbs, wasn't he?
Courtney Gaines,
he was
yes,
Courtney
one of the neighbors,
Yeah.
Isaac was
The
the
thing
lead. He
about
was a creepy little bastard, but Malachi was the muscle. He was the guy to watch out for because he was fucking psycho.
Yeah,
Yeah, Malachi was the enforcer, and
I
Isaac was
enforcer,
the
but I liked Isaac. I liked the kid that played him. He had a lot of.
Well, I think the thing about that movie, as a kid, it was freaky because it was the kids were killing the adults, you know.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, the thing about the corn, and it had this almost, well, Mike said it, cultish, religious kind of thing about it as well. And living in Kentucky, you're around a lot of really hardcore religious people.
Mm-hmm.
So I just pictured them with like, scythes in their hands, and it was pretty freaky.
The Westboro Baptist Church with scythes, that would pretty
God.
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure they would slaughter everybody if they had the chance.
I mean,
They're a bunch of pussies, I bet.
Well,
Man, they knew that they had promised to kill themselves on their 19th birthday.
Yeah.
I mean, that was part of it. I mean, they were, they
Kind
were
of a Jim
fanatic.
Jones sort of thing, like a Jim Jones cult.
They
Sort
were
of
really
thing.
drunk. They were tipping back to great Kool-Aid. That's crazy.
But this is a movie, like you guys said, that has a lot of flaws and stuff. But I give a pass because I just really love the original short story so much, and it still at least gets the atmosphere right. Even though, there's nothing really good about the acting, the effects are shitty, and it seems to be kind of hurried. Even though it is based on a short story, I mean, I wish we could have hung in the atmosphere a little more. It could have
really like
a more
the short
gradual
story,
peeling back of the vine, but I really love the short story. It's one of my favorite concepts, and I like that, like you guys said, the cult inspirations and stuff like that, and it reminds you of like the short story, The Lottery, and things like that. But I like the children angle. I liked how Stephen King wasn't afraid to do stuff with kids, whereas most actors are afraid to do. Most like writers and stuff, it's like can't do anything with kids because people freak out, So
Like Roger Ebert.
So I like it. for
Jared
that
from
too.
Subway.
Because as soon as you have like kids doing anything, like adult, like sex or drugs or killing or violence, it's like whoa, this is like the worst. Like
It's like RoboCop 2 with Hobb, where everyone's all like, "That kid is just terrible because he's doing drugs and killing people."
And I'm not saying like everything that shows that is good, because sometimes it's just exploitation. But I'm just glad that he shows it can be done well, and nobody has to like freak out over it. But I like it quite a bit. I kind of got derailed, but I was just gonna say, it's one I watch a lot. I always have it on. It's like I've often put it on as like background noise and stuff like that. I'd almost like to see it remade, but in a way,
They did.
Yeah, I know, a 2009 remake, but that was kind of silly.
That was terrible. I'll watch the original over that piece
like
of
that
shit any day.
mid-70s through mid-80s that captures that whole middle of nowhere thing better. That's almost impossible to do now. I don't know why, but it seemed to really work. The world just, even though it wasn't that long ago, the world just seemed to feel so much more open. It was easier to believe in isolated places like that than like
The last time something like that happened was like 28 days later, but that's like a crazy event where like
Yeah, and that's where everybody's
everything is
already
gone.
gone,
You
right?
know.
But this is just,
Yeah.
and I mean, I understand in, rural America and stuff, and, there are off the beaten track towns and stuff like that, but for some reason it doesn't come across as much nowadays. But anyway, yeah, so, I don't have a lot to say about the movie, except that it's not one of my favorites because there's not a lot that's great about it, but it's one that I watch a lot. And again, it is one of my favorite concepts. So I guess that's why, because I really do like the short story, which first appeared in Penthouse, which got to be weird, you're in 1970, flipping through Penthouse, look at the models, you're like, oh, here's a story now so I can rest in between, give myself a break in between here. It's like, holy crap, these creepy kids! I don't want to, I don't want to masturbate now.
How is the film close to the short story?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, because it is a short story, it's not like they have to cut a whole bunch of stuff out.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember if anything particularly... I mean, yeah, they cut out some things, again, because, they can't have too much. Like, for instance, Malachi had a girlfriend who was pregnant in it. That's in the original story, which they don't have in this at all. I don't even remember if she dies or what. I don't think she dies. I don't know. But, yeah, there's a few more kills, because there's a few more, like, infighting between some of the kids themselves in the hierarchy, like the ones that break the rules and stuff. There's a little bit more of that in the story that I don't think gets carried across into the movie. It shows a little bit more of the conflict between Isaac trying to keep his hold on them and the ones that kind of want to break away. That's explored a little bit more, stuff like that. But I'm just checking here. Oh, I don't. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the pregnant girlfriend. Her name's Ruth. I'm pretty sure she lives. But anyway, I think she's somebody that actually helps the adults. I think she's one of the people that helps the adults. But anyway, so yeah, there's little things. So again, I would be open to another remake. I mean, why the hell not? But I don't know. But still, the '84 movie just has a certain charm to it. Again, there's definitely problems, but it has a certain charm to it that makes me like being. Yeah, the sequels. The sequels don't feel connected to it. They don't feel connected. To me. I mean, I watched,
really not.
I watched Return to Isaac, and Urban Harvest is stupid because they're in Chicago. Like, who cares? Like, Chicago.
I still like Urban Harvest though. I don't know.
That kid is evil as fuck, man. Last time I saw, it's been a while, but yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the main thing for sure.
Part 2 is a ride. I like Part 2 just because it's hilarious. And I like Part 6, the Return of
Part 2
Isaac.
is directed by the guy who directed Dr. Jekyll and Miss Hyde. So
which one has the lady with the
pretty
house
crazy.
that she won't like go out like?
That's Part 2. That's
Okay.
Part 2.
Oh, and the movie gives
It's got like crazy like effects like straight out of the Lawnmower Man or something that just feel extremely out of place. But it is I guess watchable in that sense. With Children of the Corn, like my fondest memory is like of just like a segment of the '80s where they're talking about Children of the Corn, the show on VH1. If people might remember that, and they're all talking about they're driving by the cornfields, like, oh, I'm driving by the cornfields. Every time I drive by cornfields in Nebraska, I'm like, stop! Don't go in the cornfields because the corn kids kill people. So I just remember that because it's just the way the comedian said it. It was pretty funny.
Hey, does Bert live in the movie? Bert, the man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Burt Reynolds.
That's kind of different from the story too. He doesn't make it in the story. He gets killed. He gets killed by he who walks behind the corn. Actually.
I think it would have been
Behind the rose.
stronger if it was just like an episode of Twilight Zone or an anthology.
Okay, yeah.
Type,
They both die. Yeah, they both die.
And I think they did that. I think Children of the Corn was made as a short anthology little thing. Wasn't it called The Disciples or something?
That sounds familiar. But yeah,
I think it was one of those night shift anthology things, low budget.
Yeah, so they happy up the movie because that couple does not make it.
Well, that's how the remake plays. They both die.
And it has a much more ambiguous ending as to what happens with some of the children too. So.
I never liked the original one than the remake.
I think that would make me want to like hate the movie, but it doesn't really. It's all right. But I would like to see a movie that follows that structure though.
In the movie, there's that one jump scare where the final surviving girl comes out of the back seat at her, but they knock her out and walk away.
Right.
And they
Which is actually pretty lame.
Yeah.
Because it's just some girl.
Well, it was
The short-
Malachi's admirer. She was the one that was kind of proceeding over the birthday sacrifice when Bert came in and busted in, and she said, "Go get Isaac." No, go get Malachi.
Yeah,
She
she's
was-
probably the Ruth of that movie, but Ruth is quite different in the thing. In fact, Ruth is like afraid of Malachi and wants to help and stuff. And but anyway, yeah. So it's much more. I would have, even though I kind of ruined everything, I would still say read the short story because it's really cool. It's really cool.
The short film that's based on Children of the Corn is called Disciples of the Crow.
Yeah.
Wonder where they got that title.
Hey, crows like corn.
Yeah.
There you go.
They
Maybe
got it
it's,
from the
maybe it's
Jekyll
he.
and Jekyll cartoons. Anybody?
Yeah.
Jekyll?
Maybe instead of he who walks behind the rose, it's the crow.
Brandon Lee.
Anyway. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on.
Brandon Lee.
And I mean, let's look at this. Let's look at this for a second here. In 1982, you had Creepshow, Cujo. In 1983, you had Dead Zone, Christine, and 2 shorts made on his stuff.
That's a lot of.
In
Stephen
1980
King movies.
In 1984, you had Children of the Corn and Firestarter. So far, every year has seen at least two Stephen King adaptations hit the big screen. And we're only in 1984 so far. So let's talk a little bit.
1984.
Let's talk a little bit about Firestarter. And before we started this show, I admitted I don't remember a single frame of Firestarter other than nosebleeds. I remember nosebleeds.
I remember Heather Locklear on fire and George C. Scott as an Indian with an eye patch. And fire. Lots of it.
I hope somebody
lots of
remembers this
fires.
movie because I don't really remember much either.
I remember Drew Barrymore, her dad David Keith, some fireballs. That'd be pretty lame.
Something about the government trying to capture her.
And I thought, wow, this is by Mark L. Lester, who would go on to do Commando and such,
Yeah.
and he did this movie.
Well, it's not really a horror, action,
It's just-
sci-fi director, really, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, he did Class of 1999. Didn't he do Class of 1999?
And 84.
84.
99.
So he did a good job with that kind of stuff. Firestarter, I like the effects. Some of the performances are good. I like David Keith. Drew Barrymore does all right. But George C. Scott's so ridiculous in this. It's one of the most unbelievable casting choices I can think of. He cast a white guy to play a Native American. And they don't even try. Like, he doesn't even... There's nothing about him that's Native American or Indian.
It's like David Carradine as the Chinese guy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
John Wayne is Genghis Khan.
He's got this eye patch, and every scene it's just it's silly as fuck. I mean,
So
and I like George C.
I guess
Scott.
you can tell we remember a lot about the movie. It's really
I
memorable.
really liked him in
Yeah,
True
really.
Changeling and other films like that, but this is one of his worst roles.
All I remember about it is it's a little girl with special powers. The evil government entities want to capture her for their own nefarious purposes. And her and her father go on the run, and people try to help her, and people try to capture her, and there's fireballs and bullshit. And,
Yeah, they capture them. David Keith dies. She goes ape shit, burns everything, walks away.
Of course, Heather Locklear turned into a Yule log earlier, so that happened.
You
as well.
know, fireball.
But, it's almost like just set a fireball up my ass, to watch Firestarter.
And John Carver got fired from it.
He got fired from Firestarter.
Which I think that's probably
lot
best
of
for
fire,
John
yeah.
Carpenter, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think
Christine.
I think at this
the film
point-
would have been better if Carpenter had done it, but then, he would not have done. I don't know what he did in '84. What did Carpenter? Was that Starman, or was that
Yes.
'85?
That was 84, Starman.
Yeah. So I'm glad he
Starman's
chose to
much
do
better.
Starman.
Yeah, me too. I like Starman.
Much better than Firestarter.
Yep.
All I remember, there's a song called "It's a Firestarter."
Firestarter. Fiesta.
And believe it or not, that's our second reference of that group tonight.
I don't know, Firestarter's not a terrible film, but there's not a lot of rewatchability.
They also did smack my bitch up.
Yeah.
The Prodigy.
Watch it once, you're done. Nothing special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the
The
effects.
main thing that interests me is, like, I still haven't bothered, but on, like, I don't know if it's on American Netflix or where I saw it, but there's a year 2000 sequel, like straight-to-video sequel.
Rekindled.
Yeah, that has, like, I can't remember. But anyway, its running time is, like 2 hours and
Yeah.
50 minutes.
I think it was a pilot.
Which
I think
just
what it was
blows me
supposed
away.
to be was a TV pilot for a TV series for Firestarter, and then they just didn't do it because the ratings weren't very good.
Yeah. So I just want to watch it because I want to see, like, what this epic story is based on the saga of Firestarter. And it's so good that Malcolm McDowell's in it. So.
It's probably going to be just as bad as that Phantom 2-hour-long movie that Sci-Fi Channel aired, I think.
Oh, God.
Well, is it safe to say that even at this point, Stephen King is so popular and his movies are doing so well, or the adaptations of his works are doing so well, that they're kind of just like, well, what Stephen King can we get? What's not been taken?
Yeah.
Firestarter.
It's oversaturation
you know.
almost. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
oversaturation. It's like too much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not
Well,
enough,
his name was
not
money.
enough time in between Stephen King adaptations to really get, them really done really well.
But I mean, he's
This is
writing
also
like a
the time-
motherfucker, and that's what he does. He just writes
Yeah.
like nuts. I mean, that's why he made the Richard Bachman, was so that so we could release more novels in a year, because they were just like, well, we don't like to release more than one novel per year by you. And he's like, well, I'm writing like crazy, so.
I think that's just it just shows what was going on in America at that time. You had a couple of hair metal bands that came out. Next thing you know, there's 30 hair metal bands. You had a couple of slasher flicks that came out and made some money. Next thing you know, there's 300 slasher flicks. You want more? Here, we'll make more. There's money to be made. Oh, you like that Stephen King shit? Well, here's 5 more. That was just kind of the way they did it. Can't leave the money on the table. There's money on the table. There's money in that name, Stephen King. I don't care
They
if the movie
still do
sucks. We'll
stuff
make the
like
money.
that.
Yeah.
They still do stuff like that nowadays. I mean, they did that with so many horror franchises.
That's kind of where it started. They started doing remakes. The Thing,
Yeah.
The Fly. And they just kept building. And now that's
like
kind
Friday
of
the 13th. Like
that's how we got where we're at.
Movie that came out every year, and then Nightmare on Elm Street, then Halloween, and then
It's like, so, Mr. Weinstein, what do you think? He was like, fuck it, it's a found footage movie. Cash the check. Go.
Weinstein's just rubber stamp everything that comes their way. But what's funny is, like, the most significant thing about the novel and the movie, although it doesn't work in the movie, is that you might remember that the government agency that's chasing them is called the Shop. Now, I don't think that ever shows up again in any movies, but it actually shows up again in several more of his books, including The Mist. It's like it's like vaguely alluded that the Shop might be responsible for the events of The Mist. They're mentioned in the Langoliers, they're mentioned in the Tommyknockers, and they're in Lawnmower Man. So
sounds like something the X-Files crew, Scoldra and Mully should,
well, it's something they more or
Scully
less.
and Mulder.
It's something they more or less stole.
Scully and Mulder.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is.
Great.
They had that group called the Syndicate in the X-Files, which is just basically the same thing, which is like this shadowy
Scully and Mully.
government.
And I was actually mistaken when I mentioned Cat's Eye, because Cat's Eye was an original screenplay by Stephen King.
I like Cat's Eye.
Yeah.
Well, you
That's the
guys
next one.
want to talk about it? Let's talk about it briefly.
Cat's Eye is a good
I've
anthology.
never
I
seen
wouldn't
it,
say it's as great as Creepshow, for instance.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some segments that, I don't mind the effects in the troll segment, but it goes on a bit too long. I really liked the smoking, the smoking one
Quitters
with, Quitters Inc. with James Woods. Excellent segment. And I also like how they tied in the cat with the stories, and then I like the whole little references to other Stephen King movies in the movie. There's like Cujo, Christine shows up in the film as well.
Who's shot, yeah.
And I also like The Ledge. I'm one of the few people that actually really like that one, Robert Hayes, because I thought it had a good amount of suspense to it.
No, I enjoy it too.
Yeah,
The
me too.
last one, good effects, but I don't know. I didn't find the troll scary, and I thought it was so ridiculous with the whole thing with the record player and the really bad cover of the Police's song. What was that song again? Every breath you take, and then like speed it up. Every breath you take, every move you make, every we went to you. It sounds like just laughable chipmunk version of Every Breath You Take.
I actually really enjoy Cat's Eye, and I always watch that more than Creep Show. I don't know why. I really like Porter's Inc. I love the James Woods. I'm just a sucker for James Woods, and
It's a great segment. Good idea too.
and then the Ledge. I thought, I like Robert Hayes and films he's done. I just like the idea of going around and the suspense of just being an inch away from falling to your death, and the reason why he has to do it and such. And maybe that's also because it's just no one ever talks about the movie.
Yeah.
Cat's Eye, so I guess I was drawn more to that one. And there you go.
What was that?
So I agree, it's an awesome flick. I really like the Quitters Inc. and James Woods and everything these guys said. I mean, yeah, the troll thing's a little ridiculous with the oversized props and the guy in the suit and whatnot, but it was okay.
There's a certain charm to it.
Yeah, some charm.
I need to check it out again. It's been a long time since I saw it last.
I've definitely seen worse segments than the troll segment. I mean, Creepshow 3 is full of worse segments than the troll scene.
Yeah, and Haunted Hot Dog.
Quitters Inc. is worth the price of admission alone.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It's still a concept that works to this day. I mean, think about it. Just the whole idea of a corporation that is hired to help you quit smoking. And there's a Tales from the Dark Side episode that has a similar sort of concept called Bigelow's Last Smoke that I also like, which deals with the same sort of thing, or
I don't
crazy way to quit smoking.
Don't want to ruin the segment for those that haven't seen it.
Absolutely not. I'm not going to either.
But it's just the way it plays out is like, it's awesome.
Oh, it's intense.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's move on and let's talk about Silver Bullet, based on the novella Cycle of the Werewolf. And Stephen King also wrote the screenplay for this film. And we mentioned Gary Busey a little while ago. Apropos that we move on to talk about Silver Bullet. What do you guys think about Silver Bullet? It was a favorite of mine as a kid. I loved it. I mean, what do you guys think about Silver Bullet?
It's actually one of my favorite werewolf films. I know that's blasphemy, I'm sure, but
not really, because there's not that many good werewolf films, right? What does it have to compete with?
Dog Soldiers,
The Howling,
London,
Bad
Moon.
It's always been one of my favorites because I was always more of a Corey. I like Corey filming, but I was more of a Corey Haim. I liked him in the role. I felt sorry for the character. I mean, have to deal with also in the wheelchair. I thought that was a nice idea. Mm-hmm. I thought Gary Busey. This is when Gary Busey wasn't so ape shit.
He's a normal guy.
Yeah, he's quite restrained.
Yeah.
Which was nice, and I remember hearing. I think Don Coscarelli was going to direct this, and something happened.
that would have been nice to see.
I think it was with Dino De Laurentiis, and they didn't agree, and then he left, and then I forget the director, Atias or something. But the effects of the werewolf at times a little clunky, but it does have some fun gore.
Werewolf.
Yeah, but other than some of the funky effects, the werebears, some fun gore, and it's a werewolf film that not a lot of people talk about, but yeah, I've always enjoyed it ever since I first saw it. It's always been one of my favorites. Just I related to the story, and I just, Corey Haim's no longer with us. I miss the guy because I was always a fan of his. So I grew up watching his stuff. So I like it for that reason. And plus Gary Busey again. This is when he was an actor, kind of like Christopher Walken.
Or Nicolas Cage.
He was an actor instead of a parody joke, whatever that people want to say. It was nice watching for that reason. And
I
also
also think
the
the brain injury affected Gary Busey a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, I think so. I think so.
and also the villain who was in People Under the Stairs, and I forget the guy's name. Who was,
McGill, Everett.
Everett McGill.
I liked him. I thought he was one of the things in the film I really liked was Everett McGill. Very
Yeah.
creepy. Even when you see the guy, like just looking at the guy, like that guy, there's something wrong with that guy. Got an eye patch, and he's like a priest with an eye patch. That's not something you see every day.
Priest by day, murderous werebear by night.
Yeah. I like the film all right. I like the whole Silver Bullet, like his wheelchair with all the gadgets and stuff. I like that. I like Gary Busey. I like Corey Haim. The direction's all right. I think it could be a little bit better. The writing's there. There are other werewolf films I like more. I mean, for me personally, the scenes of the werewolf with a bat is just ridiculous. And I'm just like, I can't get it out of my head. And I'm just like, and then it looks like a bear, and then, it's I would have to admit, it's definitely better than Wolfen, though. I hate that movie. Wolfen.
I like Wolfen, but yeah.
I kind of like it.
To each their own of Wolfen. Like, I thought it was one of those boring movies I've ever seen in my life. But Silver Bullet has its moments. It's entertaining. I also didn't like the voiceover. I didn't like the girl doing the voiceover. I really didn't like that
one
at
thing
all.
I was going to mention. That I don't know. I always felt it was like after watching American Werewolf in London and The Howling and some of those other werewolf films, watching this one, it almost seems like a kid's film.
Yeah.
I watched it, it was like kind of a dumbed down, lesser scary. Where I mean, it was okay. I enjoyed the
They
acting.
even went all the way with the Goonies type thing with.
Yeah, but it felt like it was a
werewolf.
kid's
It might be better.
And I hated the chick talking all the time and the whole, and I didn't like my brother and my brother was an asshole and who gives a fuck?
I didn't
Shut
like
up.
that at all.
I hated that.
I'm with you on that.
Never bothered me.
He got treated special because he's in a wheelchair and
Never bothered
she
me.
was a little annoying, but it never bothered me that much. But she's definitely annoying. Definitely annoying. And the voiceovers, especially the end voiceover where she's like, "I love you, Marty."
Yeah.
Even as a kid, I was like, "Oh, that's so ugh."
But that's something that's kind of like if you watch a lot of Stephen King adaptations. There's lots of
that's too sweet.
Yeah.
There's lots of
I think because
overdubs and
it makes me think of Corey
narration.
no longer with us, so I look at it that way. So I'm fine with a bit of sap, I guess.
I liked him in The Lost Boys more.
That's one way I can eat the sap and be fine. But I can understand the points on it, though. I can understand what you guys are saying.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy it. I enjoy watching it.
Yeah.
Multiple times. It definitely has rewatchability.
I don't hate the film at all.
No,
I
compared to The Howling,
like it all right. I might say I like it more than The Howling because I watched The Howling recently, and there are things about it I really do like. The Rob Bottin's werewolf effects and Dee Wallace and things like and Picardo, but I don't like the tone. It's trying to be funny, and then it's a Joe Dante film where the tone I don't think really works. And but Silver Bullet seems to maintain that sort of innocent sort of child tone with a little bit of violence in there. So.
Yeah. Like it feels like a kiddie movie, and then the werewolf knocks off that dude's head.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember that. Yeah.
Oh, holy shit! Wow.
Yeah, they're like, okay, I'm awake now. What's going on?
The shit out of some guy with a bat. Then you're like, wow.
Yeah.
But the funniest part of the movie is when the werewolf busts through the door and the look on Gary Busey's face. I love that.
Yeah.
Favorite part of the movie.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. Silver
Of course,
Bullet.
he has to
Silver
drop
Bullet.
Silver Bullet, then he can't reach it, and then there's drama. Yeah, but that's still good.
Yeah.
I like the
I've not
Silver
read
Bullet
this.
and the Monster Squad. That's what I like. It's
To me, it kind of feels a lot like the Monster Squad in a way. It's got that kitty type, like you said, Goonies ability thing.
Yeah.
Pretty accurate.
Okay.
I've not read the short story, but I've seen it on the shelf, and I've pulled it off the
you
shelf.
should get it. I love it.
The art is great. By
I
Bernie
adore it.
Wrightson.
That's Bernie Wrightson, legendary horror comic artist.
The art for Creepshow.
Swamp Thing and stuff like that.
It was like it was like 20 pages. I mean, it was like so small.
Yeah.
You know,
I
was
checked
like,
it out
getting
in the
that.
library
I'm telling you to
one
get it.
time.
It's really great. I mean, I don't really care for the movie, but like you guys said, the movie is kind of dumbed down. They kind of like take some of the starch out of it, and I understand why a lot of people like it. A lot of people, especially like the Coreys. I never really cared about the Coreys, so and stuff like that. But the movie's okay, I guess. Like I never judge a
Dream, a
werewolf.
little dream.
My rule is to never judge a werewolf film too harshly because most werewolf movies are overwhelmingly terrible. So if one's pretty good, then that's really good, actually. So why should I be hard on this movie?
Like the rats are coming and the werewolves are here.
Yeah.
Werewolves of Washington. Werewolf of Washington.
But, yeah, I mean, I definitely like Cycle of the Werewolf better just because it's got the arc, but also it is darker. It doesn't have quite. I mean, you can only blame King himself for injecting more cheese into the script that was not needed. And like you guys said, sometimes in those movies it's fine and you're okay with it because it fits stuff. And I guess it's true. If you hadn't read Cycle of the Werewolf, you know, it wouldn't bother you as much. But I just mean it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't care for its tone.
Right.
It's weird. When I saw the title Cycle of the Werewolf, I thought it was like about a motorcycle riding werewolf. Yeah, I was like Cycle of the Werewolf, like motorcycle riding werewolf, like Ghost Rider, but a werewolf, huh? See that? Well, they did that. It was a terrible werewolf movie.
Yeah.
Werewolves on Wheels.
Like how I can't really remember. Does the movie take place over like an extended period of time? Like, does it go like days and weeks go by?
Yeah, it seems like it does. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah, because I mean it is called Cycle of the Werewolf because that's one of the things,
Yeah.
right? It has to focus on full moons and stuff like that. And I was trying to remember. I couldn't really remember if the movie sped that up or I guess you're right. The movie wouldn't make much
One
sense. If it didn't.
werewolf movie I saw recently that deals with the passage of time really well is Lone Wolf, or it's also known as not Lone Wolf. That movie's terrible.
I was gonna say late phases.
Late Phases. Night of the Lone Wolf or whatever. Because that's what they did. They put a stupid subtitle underneath Late Phases, the DVD release in the U.S., so it confused me. Late Phases. Lone Wolf's a terrible werewolf movie. But Late Phases I really liked. It dealt with the passages of time and did a really good job with that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on and let's talk about a film based on the short story Trucks,
Yeah.
written by Stephen King.
What
the
the
film
fuck's going
also-
on here?
Written and directed by Stephen King, and what he admits to be a complete cocaine-induced fog, is the masterpiece known as Maximum Overdrive. Let's just get it out there. Maximum Overdrive.
It's one of those movies that I understand when you think about it for 2 seconds. Like, why is the one car that the wedding people got married is perfectly fine, and it never goes ape shit, but yet all the other trucks. But it's my kind of movie, and here's why. It's a dumb movie, I know that, but I have so much fun I don't care. Because it's Emilio Estevez. For some reason, it's a truck stop that has a shitload of bazookas. You have a semi-truck.
Heavy artillery, yeah.
You have a semi-truck that actually has the face of the Green Goblin. You have a soundtrack by AC/DC. Total blue collar. I mean, Emilio Estevez is talking to a guy who's on the shitter. Like, leave me alone, Billy. And like Mike said, you have a guy who just smashes the doors down. It's like, what the fuck's going on here? He's got like all this mustard on his shirt. You got Who Made Who, and You Shook Me All Night Long. They shoot the shit out of an ice cream truck because they hate it. Yeah, lawnmower. Little kids get run over by a steamroller.
You have a kid. You have a guy who gets killed by a vending machine.
Stop machine, yeah.
Yes.
That's my favorite kill.
Another guy gets electrocuted by pinball. Not pinball, but whatever the hell the video game was. And
the ATM of Stephen King in the beginning, or it's like,
honey,
fuck you, asshole.
This machine just called me an asshole.
Asshole.
And of course, Lisa Simpson asking the dumbest question, Curtis, are you dead? It's like, I know the shit he gets. This is one of those films I could pop in anytime, day or night.
Me too.
And just have such a ball
Yeah.
that I don't care. I just have so much fun. And it's like, it's ludicrous. And maybe Stephen King knew that at the back of his head. It's fucking killer trucks. I mean,
I'm pretty sure that's why. Like you
It's
said,
a lot better
When people
than
get
the
hit-
TV movie with
when
Timothy
people get hit,
Busfield.
let's
that's for
make them
sure.
go bloody splat. And, you know, hey, a truck, why not make it the face of the Green Goblin? Why not have
Yeah.
bazookas pulling out the asses? Adios, motherfucker. And it's just, why not be a fucking comet that for random goes by? And sure, they work, except this one couple's car that just is perfectly
It's
normal.
absolute
Never
craziness. It's absolute batshit insane craziness from the very beginning. I mean, you got the whole crazy scene with the AC/DC song.
Yeah, the
and
pile
who
up
made
and
who,
flying
the
watermelons.
pile, yeah, and everything. It's. I mean, come on, it's got AC/DC. I mean,
it's great for all the reasons that you mentioned. I mean, you can't take it serious. I think Stephen King actually hates the movie, but I think if he would just sit down and watch it, I mean, he'd be like, "Hey, this is it's dumb, sure."
yeah, I mean, you have the trailer where he's like, "I'm gonna scare the hell out of you,"
Which was totally the wrong type of trailer for it.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I miss fun movies
I do too.
like that, and maybe that's why they don't want to make a film like that, because this is too stupid. Come on, guys.
Well, Kung Fury isn't necessarily really smart.
I'm talking
either.
about
That's
movies in
craziness.
theaters.
Yeah,
They-
I'd love to see that.
it
type
just-
of theater.
A lot of fun, and I mean, I understand someone calling it dumb. I'm like, yeah, it's about killer trucks.
I mean, vending machines and killer
vending
blenders.
machines. I mean, do you want M. Night Shyamalan's to happen?
What? No.
I mean, I rather have, Maximum Overdrive. I mean, even the title itself, and the reason I show the cover is this was actually banned, this cover with the guy inside that
I have
actually
the
took
same
this DVD off. And so if you find the DVD, this is actually filled in with nobody
Or you
inside.
don't even see that cover. You just see like a really shitty stock photo of a truck that
Which I
isn't
thought
even
was
green.
very strange that they took a DVD. They censored this.
That's in a sepia tone.
They just covered it all up.
very
There's no
artsy.
body inside. It's Maximum Overdrive. Look at the title. I mean,
I would love to see this film on Blu-ray from Screen Factory or something with features.
yeah.
And,
Yeah, but
that'd be awesome.
This movie needs to be remade, not remade, just redone, so it's 3D.
I can see the commentary now.
3D.
So, Mr. King, what were you on at this particular moment?
yeah, but
Cocaine.
I don't think
That's
don't-
pretty much what it is. It's
I don't
like
think anyone would talk about it though.
it's the mid '80s. He's sort of like at the height of his fame and stuff, and he's just like, "That's right, master of horror, bitch." Just like whatever I do is awesome. So like, do this movie. He's like, "Oh, how about this movie, Maximum Horror?"
I mean, people say this is bad. I mean, they need to see Trucks with Timothy Busfield. I mean, now that is a terrible version of this concept. It's so boring.
There's
It's
no
not any fun at all.
I would love to sit down with Stephen King and just hear him talk about this movie. Just be totally candid about it and be like, yeah, look, I was totally out of my gourd on blow the whole time. But I mean, look what I mean. If there's ever a PSA for coke use, this is the movie. If you do coke, you can make this kind of epic, awesome, badass movie. You know what I mean?
We made you! We made you!
To promote the usage of cocaine, please watch Maximum Overdrive.
That's
Stephen
funny.
King's brain
Emilio
was in
Estevez.
Maximum Overdrive.
Emilio Estevez was nominated for worst actor at the Golden Raspberries.
The Razzies are full of shit a lot of the time.
Oh,
I
of
mean,
course
they
they are.
nominated Stallone in almost every movie he was in. There were some movies he deserved.
But he
like
didn't win.
But yeah.
They both lost to Prince in Under the Cherry Moon. So
Oh, okay.
That is a bad movie.
I've always loved this movie. I thought it was the perfect bad movie. I mean, it's a bad
Yeah.
movie, but it's perfect.
B movie.
It's a perfect B movie. It's just awesome. The soundtrack, the cheesy acting, the effects. I mean, I love
You
it.
call it a beer
But
movie.
a lot of it is
all one of those.
authentic in a way. Like the characters are authentic. Like Rambo Raf said about like the blue collar stuff and like
The
truck-
Bible guy.
like they
Bible
they
salesman.
completely completely constructed their own truck stop for the movie. It's not a real one. It's one they made, and like real truckers were trying to like stop and refuel at it because they thought it was real and stuff.
That's
So
funny.
there was actually a lot of authenticity to the movie. Like you said, like anybody that's taking this movie seriously is like.
It's like people who
Minds. Like,
take
why
Kung
would
Fury
you why would you do
seriously.
that? Like, you know,
It's like seeing Kung Fury and being like, this is supposed to be
I mean,
serious.
you might think that it came from a book or whatever, but I mean, the book is the same thing. The book is still about killer appliances and trucks and stuff. You know, again, it's Stephen King going.
It's like
it doesn't
that
seem to
movie
matter. It
Ghost in
doesn't
the
seem to matter
Machine.
what I write about these
It's
things.
like, can you
people are
make
going to
that
buy
into
it.
a serious movie? With that kind of
They tried to
concept?
do
I
that.
don't know.
I don't know. Ghost in the Machine, did it kind of try to do that sort of seriousness with appliances attacking people?
Well, I mean, I don't know.
And it just sucks.
But
Like,
it was just.
See,
it
in
was
this
just
movie, you can laugh
ridiculous.
with the movie instead of laughing at the movie. The other movies you're laughing
It's
at them because they're
entertaining.
trying to be serious.
I could
and
still
it comes
watch
across.
Ghost in the Machine. I could still watch Ghost in the
To
Machine
laugh
because
at.
it's so entertainingly bad at points. I mean, Death by Hand Dryer. Come on. Or
Small
microwave.
production note. Everybody has their moment from when they were a kid, and for a movie they never saw, but they saw like previews on TV that scared them. Mine was Ghost in the Machine. I remember being terrified of whatever the preview was for Ghost in the Machine.
I can't run.
Disturbed me. I don't know. What was that, like 92, 93?
93, yeah.
Wasn't that what was the line of dialogue the guy had? Like, you can't run or
You can't run, you can't hide.
hide. win.
By the way, what is your thoughts on Maximum Overdrive, Pizzo? I know you mentioned.
Oh, I mean, I love it. Yeah. I mean, I love it. There's not a single thing about it that I don't love. I mean, you guys have covered all the bases. I think Mike put it perfectly. It's like a master. It's a bad movie, but it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if I would even go so far as to say it's bad. I mean,
I can't call it bad.
It's one of those
I'm going
movies.
a beer movie. It's a movie you watch,
Yeah,
just for
it's
fun.
one of those movies. It's a masterpiece of it is what it is. This is a movie for guys who like to watch things get blown up.
Yeah.
Who are just I mean, it's the ultimate kind of I don't know. It's just
Saturday
a
night
fun.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a fun, action-packed, cult kind of just ass-kicking movie.
Yeah, it
I
doesn't
fell in love
yeah.
with it.
And I don't
From
know.
the very
sense
moment
now,
I
but-
first saw it on VHS, I found the VHS at the thrift store, the original KLV, whatever, Carl Lorimar VHS, and I was just like, wow, this movie is awesome. I'm like AC/DC and all these craziness, a Green Goblin truck, Emilio Estevez, who I love and always have because I remember him as Gordon Bombay, head coach of the Mighty Ducks. A series of films that I grew up with and still enjoy. And so it was just like, wow, like this is really cool.
Yeah, I don't know why King feels the need to like backpedal over this either. Like in an interview for like Under the Dome, he like admits that like this is the worst adaptation of his work. Like really? Is it?
I disagree.
I don't think it
Yeah, I
is.
disagree.
Yeah.
Or it's like him having problems with the Lawnmower Man, but that's for later. I'll save that because I know what the original short story is.
It's nothing
Well,
special.
I mean, Maximum Overdrive is unabashedly itself, and I mean, it doesn't aspire to be anything more than what it is.
It's insane.
And,
It's craziness.
It's
So.
fun. I mean,
Yeah.
it's fun. There's nothing wrong
Bottom
with
line.
fun.
It's.
Yeah, when I
What's your thoughts on?
Other films
Go
that
ahead,
come to mind are like Death Race 2000, the original, or some other kind of Roger Corman camp fest. But this was actually felt like it had higher production value,
Yeah.
a little better made than most of your Roger Corman specials, but it still had that kind of a charm to it.
Yeah.
They should have had like
What's your thoughts on Maximum Overdrive?
the canon emblem before.
Yeah.
canon films.
Down.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Thoughts on Maximum Overdrive. I got lucky that TNT's Monster Vision was on. I was changing through the channels. I saw it on a Friday or Saturday night, whichever night it was on. I was really young. It was like 1 a.m. or something, really early in the morning. And saw it, and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. Trucks killing everybody. People are stuck in this like rest stop, and then like just all hell breaking loose. I thought it was so awesome. Yeah.
I think the
I know
guy.
you like it because it's a lot like your favorite film, Tremors.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It has a
I
link
love
to
when
that
people
guy.
are stuck and they're like,
Yeah.
"Fuck, we gotta get out of here." And I'm like,
Isn't the guy who played the older, like the guy who ran that? Wasn't that the same guy who played Commissioner Gordon? I think in the
Yeah, it's
Batman films.
Hingle. Pat
Yeah,
Hingle.
Pat
Pat
Hingle.
Hingle.
Pat
Like
Hingle.
it's crazy if you see that. If you see Batman, you know Burton's Batman films, and then you see this, you're like, wow, like that's
like
Commissioner Gordon.
there's two things that I really love in movies, especially like horror type movies. It's like, okay, we're in the situation, fuck, we can't get out. What do we do now?
Yeah.
And then with slashers especially, it's like, okay, you're getting picked off one by one by one. Okay, you're the last one left. And like one of the best end chase sequences like that I can like give an example of is like Friday the 13th Part 3 and 4. Even
Yeah.
2. Just I love those scenarios. I don't know what it is. Just like them.
It's a good midnight movie. I mean, like you said, you saw it at 1 a.m. and it is kind of ties in with that sort of thing, like a midnight movie, a type of
I
film
miss
that
it,
has that
man.
type
I
of
was
cult
born at the end of
following.
the 80s, but USA's Up All Night and TNT's Monster Vision. Like, we mentioned it before, but those shows were awesome.
Oh yeah.
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 I'd rather
Well,
see more movies like this made. Just unabashedly, just fuck it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I know I've mentioned Kung Fury multiple times, but that's exactly what the type of film that Maximum Overdrive is. This crazy, insane, batshit fever dream that's just like, hey, we're here, deal with it. That's it.
Well, let me just say that we're going to move on and we're going to talk about one more Stephen King adaptation, and then we're going to call this a night, and we'll return to continue next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because we've got quite a bit more
Yeah.
Stephen King
Yes.
adaptations to discuss.
There's a lot of adaptations.
Yes. I think we've already hit the 3-hour mark, so we're going to go ahead and talk about one more adaptation, and then we'll call it a night, and we'll return and pick up where we left off next week. And we're leaving off part one of our Stephen King adaptations show with a pretty significant closer, and that is Stand By Me, based on the novella The Body.
Ba-da-dum, bum, da-da.
What do you guys think about Stand By Me?
This probably is my favorite King adaptation. I think.
Okay.
It was my first introduction to the fact that King wrote more than horror. I think by this time he was the master of horror.
Yeah.
And it would almost be like if George Romero at this time all of a sudden directed a romantic drama or something. You know what I mean? It would just seem like what? I didn't know what to expect from it because I'm the Stephen King horror guy, right? I watched it. It reminded me a lot of my childhood. I really liked it, and it was different, but it was still good. So I don't know. I always look at Stand By Me as the moment that I realized that King had a lot more talent as a writer than just a horror guy.
In a way, it's a watershed film for him because it definitely was a film that proved, hey, do more than horror. I mean, The Dead Zone was not necessarily strictly a horror film either, but this is the one that this is the one that I think went the most mainstream versus the other films that he had done before, and I could see why. There's a lot to relate to it.
I think. Oh, go ahead.
I always I saw it. I think I first saw it on TV. I think it was like AMC or something, and probably edited for content. And then I eventually saw it later, and then I didn't even know it was based on a short story by Stephen King at first. I just, oh, this is a good, fun coming-of-age movie, like The Sandlot, and things like that, with these three friends who go on an adventure together, and great casting. I mean, Jerry O'Connell, when he's like, you see him now, you're like, it's hard to believe it's the same kid. It's hard to believe it's the same person because it's really heavy. And River Phoenix, who was great in that, and it's just really too sad about what happened to River.
Yeah. He's one of my favorite actors.
And I also Will Wheaton did a good job too. Crusher was a Crusher. So good soundtrack, and even though
Don't leave out Maury. And we got Corey.
Of course, Corey Feldman.
Kiefer
And
Sutherland.
you also had Kiefer Sutherland.
Love Kiefer Sutherland
Kiefer,
in
yeah.
this.
And it was a film that, it was a throwback film, but it still felt timeless. It still felt like something that you could relate to, and a lot of kids, I think, still relate to it to this day.
I think this film kind of established one of the tropes of his work to follow, where a group of friends faced adversity, got strength from each other, and then look back on it later in life type of.
Except this one's kind of a real downer.
Dreamcatcher. I mean, this one, Dreamcatcher, kind of have all the same kind of a feel to it.
Yeah. But yeah, this one's a real downer though, because he's the only one that like makes it past young adulthood. The other three are dead.
Yeah.
But
I thought the scene with the body, when they found the body, was definitely really effective, because it was something that, because the film's so close to being like a coming-of-age kids movie, and then here's a dead body.
Yeah.
It was just...
It's worded well. I find narration clunky in a lot of movies and not useful, and but I think it's really done well here. And Richard Dreyfuss is great for it and stuff like that. It is a really good stark thing. Like they they had this lighthearted thing, and then they come across the body, and they're seeing it. They're just sort of hit by the gravity of it, and the line is sort of like, the kid wasn't sleeping, the kid wasn't sick, the kid was dead.
Yeah.
And they're just sort of hit by that, and it sort of changes everything. I mean, to me, it's probably my favorite. I like a lot of coming-of-age movies, but it's probably my favorite, which makes it go really high, because there's a lot of coming-of-age movies that I think very highly of. This one's, if it's not the top, it's very near the top. Really great casting all around, and that's another thing. I'm not really a fan of a lot of younger actors, but this was actually a really good group of younger actors. No girls, because the story doesn't go that way, but... But I love Kiefer Sutherland as Ace, because I think that's something that reminds us of our childhood too. There was usually like one really bad kid that we were afraid of, that we knew he was like worse than the others. Like he would actually go beyond it. Like I don't think it's actually even in the book. Maybe it is. I can't remember. It's been a long time. But I love that scene where they're driving out, and he's gonna like play chicken with the truck, and they're all goofing off. But then like Ace narrows his eyes, so like, come on, Ace.
Yeah.
And like they do, and like he forces the truck off the road. I mean, that's great. It just shows like. There for like 1 in a million or whatever. There's one kid that has that in him and stuff like that. One thing that sort of like seems like to be a hole in the plot of the movie, because of the way it ends, because they jump over, is like that they have this standoff with them and then run them off with the gun. It's just like but that's addressed in the book. In the book, that there are repercussions. They get that they do suffer. For that. It's not like, and then we never saw them again. I mean, one of them is like the older brother. Eyeball is the fat kid's older brother, right? In the book, he like breaks his arm. But yeah, so actually the book's even more of a downer in some ways, but they're both really great. I think they're pretty much on equal footing, and they're such great performances that if I read the book, I always think of those actors, because I think they did such a great job in the roles and stuff like that. So. Yeah, nice. I don't really know why they had to change the title, but it doesn't bother me exactly. Although I don't know.
Well,
I always thought
body.
Yeah, but the body, it gets to the point. But I don't know. Stand By Me sounds great and stuff. I mean, it's a great title that way. But
people would think it was a horror film, but it was just called The Body.
The song just seemed like, maybe that's why he titled it that way, to trick people when he wrote the song, right? So they think it was some gruesome thing when it's actually this, very heartfelt of age tale. But I don't know. I just always think of the song which they use in the movie. I'm just like, I realized like they like songs of that era. I was like, this is more like a Motown type song, where these white kids out in the sticks listening to the Motown. I mean, I realized the Motown was huge, and why it got popular was because white people were into it and stuff. But I don't know, like all the other stuff they sang and stuff, it just connected to them more and stuff. I like when they're singing that song from because when my parents say, "Oh, we know that song," but when they're singing about the Paladin, they're singing that song. They're talking about Mighty Mouse, and I like that when they're talking about like Annette from the Mickey Mouse Club, which was really a sexual awakening for a lot of boys from that era, was seeing Annette and stuff. So and
that Funicello, I think.
That's right. Yeah. So I mean, that's why it was really authentic. Like, I mean, I wouldn't grow up in that era and stuff, but it's one of those things where it's sort of timeless, where you didn't grow up in that era, but they still seem like authentic kids to you and stuff like that. And I mean, sometimes when you get these groups of 4, inevitably they're turned into like stereotypes. This one is this way. That and maybe that's true, but that's also sort of adheres to real life too. And that I think anybody who watches this movie can probably figure out who in the group they're most like. I probably would have been like Gordy, the Will Wheaton character and stuff like that, a little more sensitive, and obviously I was a storyteller and stuff like that. So, but yeah. Anyway, I just think it's a wonderful movie, and yeah, probably my favorite Stephen King adaptation to date.
I definitely understand where you're coming from. I look back at that, I do see me and my friends. Of course, I grew up in a different era as well, and I was the fat kid. I was burned. That was me, because every time I watched
That's
the
okay,
movie,
because you're going to
it
get
reminds me of
married
being
to Rebecca Romaine.
I was 12 years old. I was 12 years old. I was the fat kid. I always got made fun of for being the fat kid. That was just the punchline. And then I, like Jerry O'Connell, grew up to not be the fat kid anymore. But looking back at that, it reminds me of me and my friends.
And the fact, like, when he's talking about, like, watching the movie now, especially, I mean, even then, when he's talking about in the epilogue about what happened to them stuff, and he ends with Chris, and he talks about how Chris gets stabbed and stuff. It feels so much worse because you know that River Phoenix is really dead too, and you're like, oh, jeez.
Yeah. It does hit a note that's kind of sour at the end because of that. But I was always surprised. What I'm always surprised about this, it's rated R, if I remember correctly.
I guess because there's F words in it.
It's like one of the first. What do you think of, like, a coming of age film for kids that's rated R?
Sure. And I guess I appreciate it for that too, though, because it's got that edge. Because again, Stephen King, when he writes about kids, is pretty good at it because he doesn't hold back. It's like, guess what? When we're kids, sometimes there's a violent world. And
they
scary
swear.
things happen, and they swear and stuff like that. It's just like, like sometimes getting beat up by a bully wasn't just like getting, knocked down. It was very scary and horrible and stuff like that. And he touches on that more in It, where like one of the bullies is actually like mentally deranged and stuff, and it's just like he could like kill somebody and stuff. It's like it's true though. Like I mean, I didn't have a harrowing childhood, but I did have some moments that were definitely pretty overrated as a kid.
I was bullied mercilessly so much that I just chose to forget everything pretty much from that point in my life. So.
Orc laughs at your pain.
Orc laughs at your pain, dude. Sorry.
Whatever.
I got picked on for a while in school, but then these two guys tried to shove me in a trash can, and I decided it would be more fun to go down the stairs into the gymnasium, just like jump, holding on to them, and they didn't think that sounded like fun, so they let me go. Hey, you want to shove me in the trash can? We're going down the fucking stairs.
I told them to get away from me, really, and eventually they stopped because I just blew up, and then that was it.
I started fighting back.
You have to eventually.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know. Bullying is bad, but it kind of helps you. It's like a pearl's created by grit. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you have to have a little adversity so that you can find out who you are, build your character and a spine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But some people just take it too fucking far. But a little bit of bullying is healthy.
That's what I mean. I was never bullied. I was picked on in isolated incidents, and I can get that. But I mean, I understand for the people that it's every fucking day they're specifically targeted and bullied.
Yeah.
That's bullshit, man.
School was interesting back in the day, and there was more leeway, as we all know. I mean, for some of us who are a little bit older. But today seems more scarier. Is that even a word? I don't know.
That's a word.
Especially what after
but you shouldn't follow the word more, but anyway.
Okay. But especially after what happened today. Like, I was paranoid in Colorado, but I don't know, man. It reaches a point where it's just like, and then the news just talks about it more and more and more.
That's part of the problem.
I don't know.
The shootings and things like that, is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there have been like deaths that were related to like bullying and stuff. Like I remember in Canada several years ago. This is out in BC or out in Vancouver. There was this group of kids that like more or less beat this girl to death. I mean, crazy. And then they but they all a bunch of them lied and said, oh, when we left, we beat her up, but then we left her alone. And then but several of them went back and like finished the job. And then horrible callousness. And nobody would, everybody.
Sounds like something out of an exploitation film, really. That's what that sounds like. Yeah. Speaking of bullies, like Stephen King would then later in other films, like sometimes they come back, bring that back, that type of thing for that film as well.
He must have had that experience in his life, because
Oh, I bet he
Yeah.
did.
throughout a lot of
I
his
bet he did.
work.
If you like Stand By Me, I highly do recommend The Sandlot if you haven't seen it already. It's a similar sort
Love
of
The
film,
Sandlot.
coming of age movie.
It's the only
Coming
thing
of
that can
age
make me
film.
like baseball.
I don't like baseball either. It's boring.
But I love The Sandlot. That's a great movie.
I do enjoy that film. Stand By Me is a classic as well. I haven't seen it in a long
Well, I
time,
think
but
that,
The guy that played Benny the Jet is now a firefighter. By the way, he quit acting and now he's a firefighter in California.
Cool.
I think that the thing about a lot of Stephen King's work, even if it's horror, is there's an emotion there and the characters seem real.
yeah.
And Stand By Me, he kept that. He just took the horror element away. But
Yeah.
I think if you just read like the log line for Stand By Me, a bunch of kids go on a journey to see a dead body. That sounds like a horror story.
Yeah, it does.
But I mean, that's really the
Well,
body.
the leeches
is real-
scene, that's a horror
whole-
story.
Yeah. Well, the body isn't really necessary because it's all about the journey and the discovery and the coming of age and yeah, I mean that I think Stephen King's never been an author that gets a lot of praise critically. He's just seen as this hack horror writer.
Yeah.
But Stand By Me and we'll talk about other films or other adaptations as well on non-horror stuff is really some of his most is some of his best writing is just Stand By. I'm talking about that. I'm talking about the story that the Shawshank Redemption was based off of, et cetera, et cetera. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a really. I mean, very few writers can get away with not having a good understanding of human nature and the way people are.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's really one of the strengths of his books and stuff like that, is that he gives you, even in fantastic situations that aren't real, like, supernatural and stuff like that, he still presents you with characters that, in many ways, I think a lot of us either can relate to or at least can understand and say, or say, like, the way this person talks or they act, that's familiar to me, it makes sense, and that didn't always exist in horror. In fact, it was sort of like, it wasn't really an important part of horror, right? Like, one of the great horror writers was, Lovecraft, H.P. Lovecraft. Now,
I knew you were going to say Lovecraft.
Now, Lovecraft, his stories were just all really about that. They weren't really about people at all. The people in them, in fact, his stories were very low on dialogue and interaction. And when there was dialogue, it was stiff and awkward, which made sense because Lovecraft was a weirdo that kept to himself and never even had social interaction, really. And that was fine for what he did, and he had a great imagination and wrote great stories. And it just shows the stark contrast. His stories were all about how alien and different the other is and stuff, and the people are kind of just there. You never really I mean, I remember lots of his great stories, but you don't really care about the characters in them. You don't go, oh yeah, I remember he was a really good character, or that was a really memorable thing. What was memorable about it was the horrible dark force of the monster or something like that, and that's fine. But I just mean, like you said,
it's the Frankenstein,
But you don't give King, but a lot of people don't give King credit for sort of making a marriage of the two, having some scary dark thing, but then having people that are actually characters that you like, not in everything, but I mean, we haven't gotten to it, we will, like The Stand. I love the characters in The Stand. One of my favorite characters in any book is Nick Andros, the deaf mute character in The Stand. I love him. He's one of my favorite characters in any book, any genre. I just love it. So he's really made some great characters over the years, and I think one of the reasons we connect to them is, again, they're real. Like, they seem like real people and stuff. Like, he's a good writer because he was a good observer of humans, which you kind of have to be for 90% of, like, writing out there. You have to, so that when you sit down and write, you actually remember what people are like out there, because a lot of people don't. Suddenly they're writing dialogue. Right. Stiff and weird, and it's not the way people talk at all. Which
there's
is
a
great.
lot of books like that.
Yeah, you're surrounded by people every day, but it takes a certain sort of talent to actually kind of tap into it, remember it, and then put it out on the page.
To make it natural.
Great at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, he puts you in a setting that everybody can kind of relate to, and he's great about creating a place. The small towns, they could be any small town. And the characters are characters that you can relate to, or they're characters that you can either relate to personally, or you can relate to because you know people like that. So I mean, those are two of his strongest points, really. So once he has you in with characters that you like and can relate to, in a setting that you also relate to, I mean, he's got you. So, and whatever horror element takes over there, or even in the case of Stand By Me, no horror element, just a human element. I mean, he's already got you by the short and curly, so he can do whatever he wants with it.
Yeah. And I think that's important when it comes to the best horror films, is that we have characters that we like and characters that we can do as people. And I think that's something a lot of horror films lately. I mean, one film, The Conjuring, I think really did a good job with that, and made it characters that I could relate to and I actually liked and cared about whether or not they lived or died. That's what makes it suspenseful. That's what makes it a memorable experience for me, is being with characters that you care about whether they live or die. So Stephen King definitely is one of the best writers when it comes to writing those characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, let's see what's going on out in Sausage Factory Nation before we wrap it up here. Jeremy McNeil in the comment section of the YouTube video says, "Thanks for doing this, guys. Well worth the wait." John Avenger says, "What a funny podcast. Bravo, gentlemen." DJ Donnelly says, "Stand By Me is one of my favorite Stephen King adaptations." John Avenger also points out that snow doesn't necessarily kill a movie. Look at Empire Strikes Back, Frozen, and Happy Feet.
Mm-hmm.
Empire Strikes Back only has so much snow, but I agree. I think the snow thing is a myth. I think the snow thing is a myth. People love anything.
I never
anything with
anything
with penguins. People
tonight. So
I think people just made that up because they want to excuse away like why people didn't seem to like the thing, even though the thing's a great movie. It's like maybe
I want to see more snow slashers. I wanted to see the My Bloody Valentine's 3D sequel that they wanted to make that was going to be in the snow.
Yeah,
but then they never did it.
They should do the next Friday the 13th in the snow. You know?
Off the top of your head, what like slashers have they done in a snowy setting? I can't even think of one right now. Black Christmas and that's it, or what?
One of those shitty Ron Turner
Curtains.
sequels.
Yeah, Black Christmas, I guess.
Curtains.
I haven't seen Curtains yet.
Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Ron Turner 5 or whatever the hell it was.
Shredder.
Not a lot of
Shredder.
Iced.
What's Iced?
It's a really terrible, low-budget slasher movie
Woo!
Don't open until Christmas.
from the 80s.
Don't open till Christmas. Yep. Yep.
Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yeah, I mentioned that.
Christmas Evil, yeah, that's one I watched.
Christmas Evil. Yeah, I love Christmas.
I don't know.
It goes over the moon, I think. Christmas Evil, I think.
Yeah, it did, yeah. Love that movie. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and we're going to wrap up part 1 of our Stephen King adaptations show. We're going to we'll finish things next week live Thursday, and that is Thursday, October the 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on the Sausage Factory YouTube channel. Make sure to mark your calendars. We're going to pick up right where we left off and finish up talking about Stephen King film adaptations. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. As always, we appreciate it, and we'll see you. We'll see you next Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here. Take care, people. Peace.
Later.